pitches for the New York Mets, who have traveled to Arlington, Texas, where on a warm Texas night, they begin a 3-game set against the Rangers, who send John Thomson to the mound. Steve Trachsel goes to the hill for the Mets, looking for his 5th victory of the season. But the story today from a Mets standpoint, the Major League debut of Jose Reyes, who will play shortstop and bat in the number 9 position tonight. He arrived here at the ballpark in Arlington just a short while ago, getting reacquainted with some of the Mets he last saw in spring training, being greeted by John Franco. And then after putting the Major League uniform on, he came out to take some batting practice. You know, the 19-year-old is feeling the nerves. The pressure that's been placed on his shoulders is enormous, but the Mets are trying to mitigate that by saying he's just here for 2 weeks as a replacement for Rey Sanchez, who's on the disabled list. Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Laughlin. Thanks for joining us here on MSG. The Mets would have preferred to have waited a little longer to bring this young man up. He'll only be 20 years old tomorrow. But with Sanchez's right thumb giving him problems, he was put on the disabled list. The Mets needed a shortstop, and so Reyes is the man that they placed the call to. And so the Mets say if he plays well, he could be here for the long term. But what the Mets say for now is it's just a 2-week stint. He's here simply as a replacement. He is not the savior of the franchise, at least not now. But there's no doubt about it, Ted Robinson. There's a note of excitement in the air as the jewel of the Mets organization is here in the bigs.
You know, Matt, that's so right. In fact, this is the biggest step so far in what has been a gradual evolution. The Mets beginning to work in more players from their farm system, beginning to get younger. This is as young as you can get, though. In fact, tonight is Jose Reyes' final night as a teenager. He'll turn 20 years old tomorrow. While he may not be poised enough, experienced enough yet to handle the big leagues, Fran, there's no question when you watch this kid, the tools are there.
Absolutely, Ted. Last year, Jose Reyes was voted the most exciting player in 2 different minor leagues. Now, he comes up from AAA. The key for Jose Reyes is to get a couple hits. He can pick it, he can throw it, and he can run. And the telltale sign in the big leagues, whether or not a player will make it and have an impact on a ball club, is his ability to swing the bat. And everybody is predicting he will. Forget his numbers in the minor leagues at .269 average, insignificant.
He can run. 26 steals in that limited play so far in Norfolk. So Reyes makes his big league debut tonight as the Mets come to Texas. And we'll have first pitch next on MSG. Just shy of 90 degrees, which is actually cool for Dallas-Fort Worth this time of the year, as John Thomson, who pitched for the Mets the last 2 months of last year, faces this lineup. Roger Cedeno, Timo Perez back after almost a month out. Alomar, Cliff Floyd, the DH. Burnitz in center. Williams in 6th, and Jason Phillips, Vance Wilson, and Jose Reyes.
And on the mound, a familiar face for Met fans, John Thomson, who signed as a free agent after playing last season with the New York Mets. In fact, for the Mets last season, John Thomson had a record of 2-6 after coming over from the Colorado Rockies. So Thomson on the mound for the Rangers, and backing him up defensively, it will be at first base Teixeira. Then you got young Rodriguez. Everybody knows about A-Rod. Then Blaylock at third, who's an outstanding major league hitter. Mench, Everett, and Gonzalez left to right in the outfield. And behind the dish, Diaz. So Alex Rodriguez, one of the best all-around players in the history of baseball.
And tonight's game available in SAP. Hitting that button on your remote, your television will get you there as Roger Cedeno takes strike one. We're underway. Interleague play in Arlington, Texas. Mets were here last year for some exhibition games, so they've seen the ballpark before. First game that counts here, and quickly John Thomson gets ahead of Cedeno 0-2.
And the hitters love this ballpark. Ball carries very well. See Timo Perez, who is back on the Major League active roster.
I got to tell you something. You know what strikes me, and of course, in my prior time in the American League, like Art Howe must feel the same way about this. You look down on the field and you see somebody catching for the Texas Rangers, and it's not Pudge Rodriguez.
Yeah.
I mean, right away, that strikes me as odd. Bounce foul by Cedeno.
Pudge Rodriguez was allowed to leave as a free agent. That was a very sensitive issue here in Texas, especially when, you know, they go out and they sign Alex Rodriguez, and Pudge Rodriguez felt, you know what, I've been here for a while. I'm a good player. Buck Showalter, the manager of the Rangers. And they didn't sign Pudge Rodriguez. Surprised a lot of people in baseball.
Cedeno lifts one that'll be out of play.
You know what was the biggest surprise? The Marlins signed him.
Well, the funny thing about it, Franny, Pudge Rodriguez here was the most popular Texas Ranger. He was the guy the fans here loved, and it would not shock me at all if he's back here next year. Only on a one-year deal in Florida. Einar Diaz, a longtime backup in Cleveland, is the man they got to catch this year, as that's pulled just foul by Cedeno.
Cedeno hitting the ball a lot better now than he did in the month of April, but it's going to take him a while to get the fans in New York to forget the month of April. If the Mets were winning consistently, I think the Mets fans would be more forgiving to Roger Cedeno, but he's been swinging a pretty hot bat lately, except for that.
And finally, Thomson gets him on a ball down, so Thomson had to work, but gets Cedeno to start things.
Well, the breaking ball got him. The old equalizer, he threw the ball down out of the strike zone into the dirt. Diaz scooping that ball, so Cedeno striking out.
Well, here's Timo Perez, who had one of the longer absences for a calf strain, almost a month. This is his first start since May 13th. And it's time, you know, we started the year saying, you know, Timo Perez really didn't get a fair shake. I mean, here's a guy that earned a job last year, great spring, opened the year on the bench. And then right about the time opportunity was there for him to become a full-time player, he went down with the injury, and we haven't seen him for a month.
Yeah, that's why they tell players, as you look at Robbie Alomar, they tell the backup players, you got to stay in shape, because you might get an opportunity if the man playing in front of you is injured.
So with one now to Perez.
Of course, all eyes will be on Jose Reyes, called to the major leagues because of an injury. Of course, he was going to get a shot in the major leagues sooner or later, probably sooner. I'm sure the Mets, you know, they're downplaying his ascension to the big leagues right now, but yeah, the big thing for him is to get his confidence, and the way he'll get his confidence in the major leagues is to get a couple hits. I'm not saying you have to do it tonight. I mean, it'd be great if he get a couple hits, he would relax. Imagine the butterflies in his belly.
Well, there's first sign of a low strike zone. Chris Guccione, home plate umpire. What looked like ball 4 there.
Take a look at that last pitch, and you know, right there, Timo helped that ball be called a strike by bending down.
Out of right center field, and that's over Carl Everett's head. And Perez will get into second base with a double on his first at-bat. And almost, well, his first at-bat in several weeks. He had a couple of pinch hit appearances for the Mets.
Here's that last pitch to Timo Perez, and he drives the ball in a gap in right center field. And once that ball splits the outfielders, that's an easy double for Timo Perez. Look at this, contact, head down, extension, hits the ball in a sweet spot of the bat, and because of that, there he is on second base.
And so here's Alomar in a familiar surrounding. Of course, a park he played in for many years in the American League. The stadium is now in its 10th year. Warm weather, friendly park. I mean, everything's in line for Alomar to get going. And that's through the hole, base hit. But Timo had to hold to be sure that ball got by the third baseman, Hank Blaylock. So Alomar has a hit, and the Mets have runners at the corners for Cliff Floyd.
So Robbie Alomar, as Ted said, takes that ball that's moving away from him, and he's got that warm weather, keep those muscles loose. And Timo Perez had to pick that ball up, make sure it went through before he can move toward third base. But now Cliff Floyd, the designated hitter, is the batter.
And that is something when Cliff was talking the night before the game, he was cringing. He goes,
Yeah.
Oh, and I don't want that. I don't like that. But he knows, as Art Howe does, that a couple of days out of that outfield not going to be bad for him, given his Achilles problems.
It's just different when you're a DH and you're not in there with the glove.
Well, he gets a high pop up here into shallow left field. Mensch is coming in. I don't think this is going to be enough to score the run. It won't. The wind here is always a factor. And that ball was hit so high by Cliff that the wind pushed it back towards the infield.
Well, Cliff Floyd got under this pitch. You see A-Rod going out, and Minch coming in. Minch making a call. A-Rod getting out of his way. So Cliff Floyd is a statistic. He's 0 for 1. And the Mets still have runners on the corners, and now there are 2 out.
That is one of the stories of baseball in this part of the country. It's hot, it's dry, but it is windy.
They used to play all their games at night, even Sunday games, to stay away from the heat. Everything was a night game here in Texas.
Now Burnitz takes a ball outside. Of course, Franny, you played in the old park, Arlington Stadium, which was in the parking lot of this place.
Felt like you were playing in the parking lot.
You played in it. I was telling some of the Met players tonight of younger vintage, you know, that was an old minor league stadium. When the Rangers first came down here, it was open.
Yeah.
And the wind crushed balls.
It's right in this area, as Ted mentioned. This area is really, because of this new ballpark, again, a new ballpark, the area has become developed in a real nice fashion. As you look at the ballpark from our camera up top.
But they built that whole structure out there, Fran. Everything is so high all the way around this ballpark to keep the wind out as much as they could. And as a result, this has become an extraordinary hitter's park. This is the Coors Field of the American League. And in fact, believe it or not, there were more home runs hit last year in this ballpark than at Coors Field.
Of course, you got to take into consideration they had Palmeiro.
That's true.
And Rodriguez.
That's true. But they got Walker and Helton at the other place too.
Oh, yes.
And 5,000 feet of altitude as Burnitz fouls one back. But the point is that, yes, they're great hitters here, but this is just a terrific hitting park.
They had Carl Everett last year. They had behind the plate Pudge Rodriguez. You look at Ty Wigington on deck.
And so, for the Mets, for guys like Burnitz, Cliff Floyd, and guys that sometimes get hurt by Shea, which plays much more pitcher-friendly, these are 3 games you relish. A chance to come in here and hit.
You got a great view of the ball. You see that batter's eye out there. It's green grass out in center field.
That one looped in the air, shallow left, A-Rod back, Minch on, and Minch makes the running grab, and so John Thomson gets out of the inning. He got a couple of pop-ups there. The Mets leave 2 on. Less than 30 minutes before game time for Texas. Rest of the Rangers lineup will feature Carl Everett batting in the leadoff spot where he's had just an exceptional year.
And Steve Trachsel's number is 4.86 ERA. He's been in 12 games. He got beaten up a little bit in his last outing. In fact, got hammered around. But prior to that, his 4 previous outings, boy, he was super. So Steve Trachsel, saw him in the clubhouse looking at those videotapes. Boy, he has tunnel vision looking at the reports and videotapes of the opposition. And I'm telling you, I watch the Rangers take batting practice. If I were a pitcher, I wouldn't watch that. I'd stay in the clubhouse.
No. So here's Everett, who is having just a terrific start, although he has slumped the last 2 weeks. You see the numbers he's going to put up, and that's with the last 2 weeks where he's hitting only .226. He's still 8th in the league in RBIs. And he's on base to start the game. So Everett aboard. That's a 16 home run man in the leadoff spot. Hank Blaylock, one of the league's best hitters, second. A-Rod third. Then Palmeiro as the DH. Gonzalez out tonight, so Teixeira, Mensch, Young, then Diaz, and Doug Grenville, the former Philly, in center.
That's funny. Whoa. You look at that lineup, and you're looking at the 3rd hitter, the best all-around player in the game, arguably. The 4th hitter, one of the best home run hitters in the game. And the Rangers are struggling.
Hank Blaylock. Well, you know, Franny, we look at these numbers. Hank Blaylock's 22 years old. He's 22. Look at that. He's at 353. Second in the league.
One of the top hitters in the American League, and he takes that big swing over the splitter.
Well, he definitely does. That's the word on him. He will swing a little bit like maybe a younger version of Jeremy Burnitz.
Yeah.
A big, aggressive swing. But this kid has benefited big time from where he hits in the order. He hits in front of A-Rod.
Oh, that helps tremendously. Also, you know, you mentioned that sometimes overly aggressive swing. You'd rather see a hitter overly aggressive swinging the bat than passive. At least when you're overly aggressive, you have a chance.
And that's a man who gets a lot of credit here. Rudy Jaramillo, who was a longtime coach in Houston. Our pal Matt Galani know him very well and has been the hitting coach here for quite some time.
Yeah, he was popular in Houston also.
Yep.
Rafi Palmeiro.
Blaylock hitting .433 in this park this year. Takes 2 balls and a strike.
I would like to be one of the leading hitters in the American League and behind you, Rodriguez and Palmeiro.
And that's, I mean, the Rangers are the Colorado Rockies. We look at it, and they score a ton of runs. They lead the planet in homers. Nobody in the world's hit more homers than they have this year. And they can't get anybody out.
Well, you know, if you're a pitcher in their organization, you have a golden opportunity.
And their team ERA is just a shade under 6. Right, but teams have gotten them out. The Rangers have lost 9 games in a row. They just lost 3 in Atlanta and 3 in San Juan to Montreal. And actually, those guys out there did a little better job on the road. The bats got slowed down.
By the way, right after that pitch, Robbie Alomar went over to say something to Jose Reyes. There's a ball call right there. There's a lot of just talking out there on the infield. And Steve Trachsel wants to know what he did. So it was explained to him by Larry Vanover, the first base umpire, as Art Howe looks on. You can see Robbie Alomar having an ongoing discussion with Jose Reyes. He broke with the rubber. Unless he, you know what, he might have turned before he broke with the rubber. Once that foot is off that rubber on the dirt part of the mound, you can turn. Let's take a look and see if his foot was on the rubber when he turned and then took it off. Yeah, can't do it. You got to get that back foot off the rubber, then you can quickly turn.
That's exactly right. But boy, did he come up with a big pitch here to get Blaylock.
And Blaylock,
good split.
Yeah, he's gotten a steady diet in his first AB against Steve Trachsel splitters. So if Blaylock's an intelligent hitter, next time around, he's going to look for that splitter.
So here's A-Rod. He didn't play the last 2 games, didn't start the last 2 games, more accurately in San Juan with a bruised knee, but he did pinch hit in both games, and he's still has a consecutive game streak tonight, the 448th straight game that he's played. Second to Miguel Tejada. Cal Ripken looks at that and goes, that's spring training.
You know, it's funny, in watching A-Rod and Palmeiro take batting practice, as you look at the defense, Phillips, Alomar, Reyes, and Wigginton in the infield. Perez, Burnitz, and Cedeno left to right in the outfield. Wilson behind the plate, Trachsel on the mound, and we will focus on Jose Reyes throughout this ball game. We're talking about Rodriguez and Palmeiro and BP. They such smooth swings, and the ball just explodes off their bats. And they have a little bit of an uppercut, but it looks like it's very little effort when they swing the bat, and yet the ball explodes. There's Palmeiro on deck. Some beautiful swings, both from the right side with A-Rod and from the left side with Palmeiro. And they both look so relaxed.
Jammed A-Rod. Wigginton will go to first base, gets the second out. Everett goes to third. And most importantly, Trachsel gets the dangerous Rodriguez.
Now take a look at Rodriguez's swing, and he has a beauty. Get that leg kick, and it comes up and he hits on top of his ball. In batting practice today, he did a lot of that, where it looked like he was hitting the top of the ball because he has somewhat of an uppercut swing. Not dramatic, not violent, but right there he hits on top of that ball, consequently grounds it to Wigginton at third base. Great amateur player in Florida, 3-sport athlete from the Miami area.
So Palmeiro hits with 2 outs and Everett halfway to home. With the way the Mets are defensing Palmeiro, Everett's coming, is at least 30 feet down the line. Palmeiro with 503 career home runs.
I'm going to tell you,
has never led his lead.
I'm going to tell you right now, Everett is wild enough to try and steal home.
That's what I was saying with the left-hand batter. I was thinking the very same thing.
What a jump he could get.
If Trachsel's not completely where Vance Wilson is,
well,
there's a ball.
He doesn't have to worry about the third baseman, a pickoff at third base. Look at this. He's all the way over here. Now, this guy here, he comes down the line. He can run. Not the way he ran when he was at the Mets, but he's wild enough to do it on his own. He could get some kind of jump off of third base. He could go down a few more feet. Trachsel would have to chase him back. Literally.
So Vance Wilson's the guy who's right on top of that. Vance looking Everett at each pitch.
They're going to walk Palmeiro. I was wondering why they didn't do that first pitch, especially with his numbers. So now they're going to walk Palmeiro. The runners will be on the corners.
So that finishes the walk. Palmeiro aboard. And Mark Teixeira, rookie, will be the batter for Texas. Teixeira, highly regarded amateur player out of Georgia Tech. And again, Texas got a couple of guys that Fran Healy's going to like. Blaylock just 22. Teixeira's actually 23, but he played 1 year in the minor leagues. One year, and he's here.
It's amazing. I like it because I'm a big believer that you take talent over experience. Like Jose Reyes, he gets a couple of hits here, a couple of hits, and tomorrow, one hit, just build his confidence. He'll be fine in the major leagues.
Now that's by Vance Wilson, and here comes Everett to score. So the Mets give up a run on a pitch that went off Wilson's glove. So a balk and then a misfire on a pitch here, giving up really this run.
Take a look at it again. Was it a wild pitch? No, that's a pass ball. You know, Vance Wilson will tell you he should catch that ball. You know, and when they throw that breaking ball, which Trachsel did, as you see Everett score easily, the catcher is taught at a very young age to anticipate that ball in the dirt, anticipate the break on the curveball, so you're not fooled by it. Once you call it, you know what's coming.
And Teixeira hits one out to center where Burnitz has plenty of room, and one pitch too late for the Mets. So that's a frustrating run for Trachsel to allow, and the Rangers have the lead after one. Not out at Yankee Stadium. One of the highlight games certainly in his career, because Thompson's struggles well documented, including his brief time with the Mets last year. His ability to strike to Wigginton. Thompson has a lifetime record of 32-56, but one of those 32 wins, a memorable one when you throw a three-hitter at Yankee Stadium. Now 1-1 to Ty Wigginton.
I was talking to Ty before the ball game, and you know, he was saying, we talked about the move to third base. He said it's been a transition period that at times was difficult early in spring training. He said he couldn't believe the ball that he caught off the bat of Gary Sheffield in Atlanta. Was on one hopper. He didn't get him at first base. He said he bounced the ball to first. He said he couldn't believe how hard he hit the ball. There's that breaking ball that you see hitters chase when they're reading fastball and chase a breaking ball. But he said the biggest adjustment was the angle of the bat. You know, fielding the ball off a different angle. He's much more comfortable at second base. Of course, the Mets have a kid in AAA, Garcia, who they're very high on. Reminds them of Wally Backman. People rave about Wally Backman. To this day, people still talk about Wally Backman and Lenny Dykstra.
And there's Wigginton put away. So Thompson has his second strikeout.
There's that last pitch, and that slider, I'm telling you, what happens is when they get in a certain location, you know, you read fastball, 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 you start to swing and start breaking away, and you can't hold up.
So here's Jason Phillips, and as he stands in, we'll invite you to log on to Mets.com. Sports your summer threads, all the MLB Authentics at Mets.com. Jason Phillips, 273 batting average.
Mentioned that second baseman in Norfolk, who the Mets are very high on, and you hear from scouts throughout baseball they like him. Dan Garcia, and everybody seems to be very high on him. So sooner or later, the Mets will have him in the big leagues.
And that will likely depend on the ultimate outcome of that man's season.
Robbie
Alomar finishes the season here or if he finishes it somewhere else. Well, it's funny, Fran, I'm talking with some of the Texas folks about this tonight. Oral Hershiser, the pitching coach, I was talking with him about this. You look at the Rangers in the field tonight. Their first baseman, their second baseman, their third baseman. There's Oral. You want to feel old? His son just graduated from high school.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Quentin Hershiser heading to Baylor University. Not far from here. As Everett goes near the right field line to play that ball on Phillips' back, 2 down. Then my point I was going to say is the first baseman, the second baseman, the third baseman tonight for Texas, and the left fielder are all drafted, signed, developed by the Rangers. 4 of their 8 starting position players.
Yeah, the team.
And that's where the Mets are heading.
Yeah.
That's what they need to do.
Well, that's what the Mets want to do, and they want to start sowing the seeds in the minor leagues and bringing those kids to the big leagues right out of their system. Garcia, they're very high on him. They're extremely high on Jose Reyes. In the first inning, I watched Alomar talking to Reyes quite a bit on the field. There's Reyes right there. And like I said, biggest thing he has to do is get comfortable. I always felt it was an intimidating stage in the major leagues. Now, some guys rush through it. It might take other guys a little bit longer. But it all depends. It's amazing. It all depends on that bat. If you can get some hits and start to believe you belong in the big leagues and you get your confidence, you're going to be a good player. Especially if you showed it in the minor leagues. It's all about that nervous system when you get in the big leagues. He can play. Talking about Reyes. He can play. Then he's got to get that nervous system under control. I'm sure he is wired right now tonight. He knows he was called up and he's been told that in a couple weeks he'll probably go back. But I got to believe that if he's comfortable and gets some hits, the Mets would love to keep him in the major leagues. But they're not going to force it.
Slider hit on the ground to A-Rod, and the Mets go in order. So Reyes' first at-bat will wait until the third. He is for life. Jose Reyes tonight becomes, by 1 day, becomes the 9th team to play for the Mets, following some terrific names, including my idol and the man who wore that same number 7 so proudly for the Mets, Ed Kranepool.
Ed Kranepool, you want to talk about pressure, came out of the same high school and broke the record that the great Hank Greenberg held for home runs. And Eddie Kranepool was signed by the Mets, and of course they wanted to build the ball club around him, put him right in the big leagues. Wow.
So when Seaver gets here tomorrow night, you have to make sure you tell him that same thing too. I always make sure I'm on. Kranepool was my idol.
Boy, I don't want to be in the same room. Tom would get a kick out of it.
Come on, when you're left-handed, you were a first baseman and a Met fan in New York in the 60s. Who else could you have?
Eddie Crane.
Eddie Crane. All right, well, Michael Young is hitting, and we don't know why, but he just drove one to deep right center field, and it is off the wall, caroming away from Burnitz. Cedeno racing over to play the carom, and Michael Young is going to third base. And the question is, why is he hitting? Because on every lineup sheet that we've been given, Kevin Minch is supposed to be the batter.
Well, Kevin Minch didn't hit. Michael Young did. And he tattoos this ball off the center field wall. Jeremy Burnitz wasn't, you know, he still had some room, and he was concerned with the wall. The ball hits the wall, and even Young is looking at it. He's a little bit surprised. Then he turned it on. I thought they were going to send him.
Well, I guess the lineup cards must be right on the field and wrong everywhere else, because there's been no challenge by the Mets here after Young's triple. But the lineup on the scoreboard, the lineups that we were given here, all had Minch batting 6th and Young 7th. So it's only the major leagues. Come on, you can't expect him to get the lineups right, can you?
Kevin Minch has an opportunity right here to pop that ball and drive in a run, because Young is on third base and there's nobody out. Young, you know what, the scoreboard has Young hitting now.
I know. I mean, everything was wrong. I assume that the lineup card Art Howe had must be correct, because he said the Mets have not made any move to challenge this.
We haven't seen a good hitting out of order in a long time. Let's take a look at the lineup card in the dugout. You know what? You see where there is a scratch here?
Yeah,
and
they've changed it.
Well, if Minch drives in young, that means Buck Showalter had a premonition. Why would he change it? Buck Showalter trying to keep the heat on the body.
It's just, it is a little bit of a strange place to be wearing a pullover. Minch fights it up. Of course, used to come to the old park in Arlington when Bobby Valentine managed the Rangers, and they'd be taking batting practice in shorts. T-shirts and shorts.
How they do it in Florida for the Marlins. Who was it? Was it the White Sox at one time played the games in shorts? You see.
Tony Clark's got a pullover on.
Keep the turtleneck on. Keep the heat in. Don't let it escape.
I mean, after what everybody, I mean, I guess I was lucky to have missed it, but what I heard from everyone, how miserable last week was in New York, you think guys would be baking in this right
now.
Minch hits this one out shallow left. Timo coming on, and he's got it, and Young will only bluff. So Trachsel gets an important out there as Minch goes out to shallow left. And it brings up Einar Diaz, Rangers catcher. He's splitting, well, he's doing most of the catching here. Todd Green is also around as a backup. And that's a shiny dome right there. I think I did a good job.
Looks like Matt Williams.
All right, Mets are going to bring the infield in now. See if they can choke off this run. There's Doug Glanville on deck.
Long way from Philadelphia. That was his favorite spot. He grew up in the area. Larry Bowa lost confidence in him.
And Diaz going to get this run home. Cedeno can't run it down. So not only will Young score, but Diaz will get the second with a double. 2-0 Texas.
Trachsel, you know, very
looks good.
Yeah,
it looks good. They would.
Very easygoing guy off the field. On the field, he's very intense, and he gets his ball up, and Diaz drives it. And maybe Trachsel thought Cedeno should have caught it.
You know, I mean, look where that ball lands. It's got to be caught.
Yeah, look
at that ball land 10 feet short of the warning track.
You know, pitchers usually keep it to themselves, and then they'll tell the pitching coach or the manager. Whether it's a catcher, an infielder, or an outfielder, pitchers want the best defense they can get. And right there you saw Trachsel wearing his emotions on his sleeve or on his face.
Glanville takes the ball. The ball Michael Young hit to start the inning, that hit the wall 407 feet away. And that's nothing the pitcher can say about that. That ball, that's about a 360-foot fly ball. And the box score RBI double. Glanville takes 2-0. Glanville is just back off the DL. He's been there since mid-April. So only playing in his 16th game. While he was out, Everett played center field, and Mark Teixeira, who's playing first base tonight, got a lot of playing time in left field. 2-1.
Boy, that's a nasty pitch. When he throws his real good splitter, watch the action on this ball. You start your swing and you know, I'm not going to hit this thing. You take a nice swing, you look good, and the ball's in the catcher's glove. That splitter has done a lot to make hitters nervous.
That is foul. 2-2.
At one time, it was rare that a pitcher threw a splitter. Now, I would say 60% of the pitchers have messed around with that pitch.
And why Fran is much more effective. He threw a good one there to Glanville, but it's generally considered more effective from a right-hander to a left-hand batter than to a right-hander.
You know, I know that's the prevailing philosophy, but I think a ball that moves like that pitch he threw to Glanville would be effective against left-handers or right-handers. It all the thing that depends on is how he throws it, where the location is. It's got to be down, and the good splitter eventually goes out of the strike zone. They started low, the hitter starts his swing, and the ball drops right out of the strike zone.
Three-two now. Glanville. Tom Glavine. He'll come out tomorrow and throw a little side session. Talked to him tonight. He's hopeful of being able to go this weekend in Anaheim.
Al Leiter will be moved up.
He's got the chart working. Jay So with tomorrow night's start.
That was the pitch Glanville has to take advantage of, because now, well, it's 3-2. Do you pretty much take your splitter out of your repertoire?
Well, it did there. So
yeah. So
I think it would again.
And you know, it's funny because if you have if the pitcher following Glanville, that's one thing. But Glanville's batting ninth, and Everett's the next hitter. So that's an effect of the DH in baseball, where you might take a chance of the splitter here if Glanville was batting eighth and you had the pitcher up next.
Everett fouled. Why every player I've asked, I've talked to a lot of guys about this year, Franny, they all say this league, the American League, is so much tougher on pitchers because of this right here. Well, you wind up having a pretty good hitter 8, and then a respectable hitter 9.
You know, I was in the American Association when they experimented with this before they introduced it into Major League Baseball. And I thought at that time, you know, it's going to be tough on pitchers, because you're not going to have that pretty much an out man, even though, you know, hitters are good hitters before pitchers are good hitters before they get into pro ball, but because of, you know, 3, 4, 5 days off, they're not going to be good hitters. And you had that DH who was consistently a guy who put the ball in play. So Steve Trachsel here watching Glanville. Now you got to go after Carl Everett, who's already got a base hit in this ball game. Here's that last pitch, 3-2 pitch, he threw the splitter. Now we go back to that again, where if the pitch is coming up next, you can throw it. With that everyday player up there, it's tough to mess around, because now you got a Carl Everett rather than a pitcher.
Well, that's a walk that Trachsel is going to have to work hard to not regret, because Glanville rarely walks, not an effective hitter, and now you're getting into some guys that can do some serious damage. And Everett drives a base hit. Burnitz going to charge. Diaz coming home. Burnitz has no play. First and third, and a run in. It's 3-0 Texas.
They go back to that splitter, bringing 2 to Doug Glanville. Glanville reached for his base. That brought Everett to the plate. And Everett, who's been productive, although of late he's been in a slump, he's having a solid year again with the Rangers. And here's that splitter. Look what he does. He goes down and gets it. And he pops that ball in the center field, driving in a run. He's 2 for 2. Burnitz came up and wisely threw the ball at second base. See Diaz, he was going to score easily.
So how about this? You got a leadoff hitter with 16 homers and 45 RBIs. And we still have 100 games to go in the season. And that's what Everett's done. Vern Rule on the mound. Play locked to bat.
It's unbelievable. You look at this lineup, Ted, excuse me, here in Texas. I was watching him around the batting cage at BP, and you're trying to figure out, you know what, maybe this pitching is 95% of the game, because they have a potent offense.
So first and third with Blaylock batting and still just one man out. You know, there's a lesson to me in what the Mets have gone through the last couple of days. Strike one. Look at the guy on deck. And he may be, you know, the best player in the game. He's certainly the wealthiest player in the game right now. Okay, and he's been here. And what has this franchise done since he's been here?
Nothing.
And the team he left,
unbelievable.
Unbelievable. There's a lesson in that. People need to pay attention to that.
Well, they're going to.
And for all this talk about, the Mets should have signed A-Rod, the Mets should have signed A-Rod, and why didn't the Mets make a move at A-Rod? Well, I'm going over the splitter. That's all well and good, but, I mean, we're sitting in the midst of living proof that himself, no matter how good A-Rod is, he can't make that big a difference.
And Seattle went out and they got some solid ball players. Brett Boone really came into his own as a power hitter. Edgar Martinez continues to hit the ball. But you're right. I mean, A-Rod was an outstanding player with Seattle. Left Seattle. Ken Griffey Jr. left Seattle. It's unbelievable. Ball club wins more.
1-2. I missed, of course, the series over the weekend, sadly. But I just wrote a piece for shameless plug, MSGnetwork.com. Conversation I had with Jamie Moyer 2 years ago when the Mariners were in the midst of that great regular season they had. It was right after A-Rod had left, and he said, you know what? I firmly believe now you don't need a superstar to win in baseball. And the Mariners are proof of that year after year. They had 3 superstars leave in 3 years.
Yeah. Well, there have been teams with superstars. I mean, it's the whole team that's going to help you win. I think in New York, though, as you look at these numbers, Texas Rangers numbers, they're awesome.
They're hitting numbers.
Yeah. And the earned run average is terrible.
Yeah.
But I think in New York, not only do you have to win, but you have to have that star attraction.
That's a valid point that many make.
In New York, right? Maybe L.A., maybe Chicago.
But the other factor to think about is, does winning create the stars?
It certainly does.
Okay. Were Derek Jeter and Bernie Williams stars in 1994-95? Or did they become stars because the Yankees won the World Series?
They became stars because of what happened, and you know, in Seattle, Brett Boone is quickly becoming a star.
My point, I guess, what I'm saying about the Seattle versus Texas thought is that Seattle and the Mets just saw it firsthand, and guys in the Mets were telling me about this before the game. So there was no weakness there.
No.
Bounced glove nicely by Phillips, and he's coming home. How about this? And they've got Glanville hung up. And the Mets execute it, and that's an inning-ending double play. Nicely done by Jason Phillips. I'll tell you, that kid has made more nice plays at first base.
And he does it being overly aggressive. He's not afraid to take a chance. Watch this. Catches the ball. This is a catcher. He goes to the plate, and they get Glanville a rundown, and they ultimately get him out.
The traditional 3-2-5-2 double play. The bunt. Reyes, a switch hitter. Much more of a question, I think, about him doing this than the way he handles himself in the field. And how about that? Base hit first at bat.
That's very important. You know, he's got to believe that he can do it up here. He's done it in the minor leagues. And his first at bat this year in the big leagues, he slaps that ball in right field. His legs are healthy in spring training. Then they're going to get the ball. But it's so important for a young player with talent to come up here and get acclimated right away. Look at that pitch. That was a nasty pitch down low. And he just slaps that ball in the right field. But you just can't underestimate the importance of that first hit, or get a couple of hits in the first game, the second game.
Fran.
It's just for your confidence. And pretty much, and they tell you, you never let your offense bother you. Your offense dictates everything.
Now you want to talk about where Reyes may make an impact with an element that not even Cedeno can bring to this team, and that's where he is right now.
Yeah, running.
This kid running. And Cedeno doesn't run anymore. Reyes can steal bases.
Yeah. He had 26 in AAA prior to being called up yesterday or today.
Fouled away, and it's 1-1.
But I mentioned how that hitting, it just, your body language is more positive. You feel better defensively. Your food tastes better. You sleep better when you hit.
Fran, the analogy when we look at Reyes, the player that I think of for Call with Atlanta.
Yes.
Came up when he was 19. He made the team.
And that was an interesting story with the Braves.
And there's a shot. Rogers finds the gap in the left center. Watch Reyes run here. This is going to be fun. And Matt Galani's waving him around. And Reyes will go first to home on his first time around the bases in the big leagues.
And no throw from Alex Rodriguez. So Reyes had the ball in front of him, and he realized he could score, so he got his base hit, and he scored a run, and that's a load off his shoulders. Also, those butterflies are still in his stomach, but they've calmed down a little bit. Here's Roger Cedeno, ball down low, hitting a line drive in the gap, left center field, and Reyes was flying around the bases. He went from first to home in a hurry. No throw from Alex Rodriguez as Cedeno went into second base with a double.
Let me tell you something. If you're a Met fan, this right here, this is what you like to see.
You know, that energy brings it to the ball club, and he can run. We told you about the 26 stolen bases, so you're watching a kid who, if he hits and he's comfortable and gets his confidence, it'll be tough to send him back.
Timo bunting, and Thomson throws it away. And in to score will go. Well, Cedeno's coming home, and he will score after stopping. And the Mets get a gift as Thomson, for some reason, fielded that bunt and looked at third. And Hank Blaylock wasn't there, and he said, you better throw to first. And by that time, Thomson threw it away. So the Mets have 2 runs in, a runner at first, and still nobody out.
Yeah, take a look at it again. Thomson looking to third base. Now, the catcher's got to give him some help right there. You just tell him first base. Thomson charged quickly, so he assumed he had a shot at third base, but you get Timo Perez going down that line at first base. Cedeno scoring on the wild throw, and we're all tied at 2 here in Texas. But the big thing in this inning for the Mets is Jose Reyes getting a base hit and scoring on a double off the bat of Roger Cedeno.
That'll be a sacrifice for Timo, an error on Thomson, no run batted in. So the Mets have 2 back, and they're within a run. Alomar takes a strike.
Take a look at Robbie Alomar taking that pitches on the outside part of the plate. You saw Diaz move the glove. He really didn't have to move that glove. Sometimes when you move the glove, it's distracting to the umpire, and he calls it a ball. Like umpires pride themselves on not being deceived by the catcher's glove. Now there's Reyes talking to Cedeno in the dugout. So on his first at bat, he's 1 for 1 tonight.
Alomar stays alive with that foul tip. You know, I want to finish that point about Furcal, Fran, that we started talking about with Reyes.
As you look at that last pitch, ball breaking down, and he was fouled off.
So, you know, Reyes comes up. All right, same age Furcal did. Furcal made it. Furcal got hurt. And now this year is when Furcal is finally putting it all together. Furcal's now at 23, having the kind of year that people predicted he would. And my point is with Reyes, the same thing. A little caution, maybe well perspective. Now, he may be able to play at this level.
Well, you know,
19.
It's funny, Ted, talking about Furcal. I had a long conversation when Furcal came to the big leagues with Bobby Cox. In the middle of the year, he was playing. He told me coming out of spring training, he said, I didn't tell this kid, but I was going to play him. He was going to make the team, and eventually he was going to be in every day.
Alomar gets it just past Michael Young, and Timo's going to third on Everett's arm, and he is gone. Oh, he got in. Well, Everett made a great one-hop throw to Blaylock, and Timo got in under the tag, and Alomar alertly runs up to second. Boy, it looked like Timo was going to be gunned down.
It was a good throw, but Timo Perez gets in under the tag. How about that? So the ball was thrown from Everett to Blaylock, and fundamentally everything was sound. And Timo Perez with the slide gets under the tag. You know, it's funny. We talk about the tag, how important it is today.
Yeah.
If Blaylock came down and up with his glove fast, they would have called Timo out. See this? He had time to get down and get it back up.
Look where he tags him.
He took his time.
Yep.
The slap tag has become extremely important because there are so many games televised today. These umpires are not going to say the ball beat him, he's out. They're going to be accurate, and they're going to call it the way they see it. And that slap tag is so important now as opposed to the sweep tag. And that there was a slow tag.
That's a great point, Fran. Here's Floyd. Second and third, nobody out. Alomar doing a good job of getting up to second base to take double play away. But that's a great point, because the whole theory was, and that was the play there, and you watch with the naked eye, you say the ball beat the runner, he's going to be called out. But the scrutiny that exists today means it's no longer automatic.
And really, it's because of television. In fact, the neighborhood play no longer exists because of television. Umpires know that you're going to see 10 replays, and everybody's going to say, you know, that guy missed it. So they're going to be accurate. And that tag by Blaylock was slow, and that's why Timo Perez was able to get in there, and a good call by Gary Darling, the third base umpire. One thing that you don't see players practice, and I guess you only do it in the game, is the tag.
But takes a strike, 1-2 now. With Floyd here in a situation as he was in the first inning, he's questioning Guccione's call.
Here's that last pitch. See that slider? You can see the spin, that tight spin on that ball. And it was down. And you know what? It was close.
Cliff Floyd's really struggled with John Thomson. Cliff Floyd's one of those things that's hard to explain. Here's Thomson, a pitcher without a great record in his career. Floyd, pretty good hitter, 2 for 21. It's the lowest average Cliff Floyd has against any big league pitcher that he's faced at least 20 times.
It's unbelievable.
I can't explain it.
There are certain pitchers who have magnificent stuff, and you have success against them. There are other pitchers who, you know, they don't have the great stuff, and you struggle. Look at the numbers, 2 for 20. It's a pretty good body of work right there. That pitch was exactly the same as the ball that was called the strike.
I agree with you, Fran. Thompson's wondering now what was wrong with this.
This is a slider. Watch that tight spin and the break. Well, I'm telling you, very similar.
(3-2). Infield is back here, so Floyd gets a run in with a ball in play. Perez and Alomar aboard with nobody out and 2 runs all for the Mets. Cliff went on that one, I think. Yep. Gary Darling rings him up.
Again, we're going to talk about television. Every time a guy checks a swing on TV, if you look at the picture, it looks like he goes around. Umpire's going to be on top of this. Let's see, did he go? There's that slider again. He didn't check his swing.
No, I think he went.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any question.
And Gary Darling rang him up.
So that's a big out for Thomson. And now Texas is going to walk Burnitz. Set up a potential double play with Wiggins in behind.
You know, we're talking about that word confidence. As you look at Buck Showalter, Ty Wigginton is a guy who every step of the way now is building big league confidence when he gets a hit. And he's got a situation here where if he can deliver, he'll build some more confidence.
I'll tell you one thing that's not happening here, Franny. There's no confidence in John Thomson. They got somebody warming up in their bullpen. You believe this?
Yeah. You know, it's amazing because that does have an effect on the pitcher. But you know what?
Jay Powell.
Right now, you would do it. Bill Hershiser, I'm sure, would influence Buck Showalter's decision to get somebody up in the pen.
I mean, now the only thing to be fair is I don't know if John Thomson got some malady that we're unaware of.
We
Maybe
don't know that.
Battling a flu or something like that, where he'd be on a short leash. But it is unusual, off the first glance, to see a guy warming up in this spot.
Sometimes a manager gets so frustrated he wants to
look at
embarrass
this.
you.
Boy, he got right out of it, just what he wanted. First pitch, double play. Well, the Mets have really wasted a couple of golden opportunities to rack up more runs. They get 2, but it'll be frustrated they didn't get at least 2 more here. Burnitz with a good slide, but Young still completes the double play. Standing with us on Mets Tuesday here on MSG. Ted Robinson, Fran Healy, Matty Lachlan, all with you in Texas. A-Rod takes ball 1, 3-2 Rangers. As Rodriguez, Palmeiro, and Teixeira will be the 3 to face Trachsel.
I was told down in Miami when Alex Rodriguez was in high school, they had a number of quarterbacks who went on to college, big-time college and professional football, and he was the best of all of them.
Quarterback.
Yes. Signed at a very young age with the Seattle Mariners and was in the major leagues at 18 years old.
And from all accounts, Alex Rodriguez has been a model citizen here, even off the field. In the clubhouse, he's taken on a leadership role. Everybody, there have been guys who get the big contract. I've seen them personally, they go in their own little world.
Yeah.
I mean, A-Rod has not been like that. It's just, the whole point is that it's living proof that one man can't do it all in baseball.
Gonzalez was in the starting lineup. I watched him in BP. He looked fine in BP.
Apparently an arm problem. Right arm problem. He did look good. High pop-up. Timo Perez drifting again. The wind pushing that ball in toward the line. And finally into Timo's glove. 1 away. Now tonight on MSG Network, an all-new Angles presented by Beck's. We'll talk to Chad Pennington. So football the topic tonight on Angles. It's after Mets baseball tonight on MSG.
The topic here in Texas for the Mets fans, Jose Reyes.
Yes. I was laughing about the topic being football in June. And we're in Texas. This is the state, Rafael Palmeiro, where the longtime sports information director at the University of Texas uttered one of the great lines of all time. Somebody from another part of the country came in. Palmeiro fouls one away. A fellow named Jones Ramsey looked at him and said, "Son, there's only 2 sports in Texas: football and spring football." There's definitely a buzz lacking. Rangers have struggled.
They've lost 9 straight, so that's certainly going to take the buzz out of the ballpark. We'll take a look at Rafi Palmeiro's 500th home run. There was a buzz here that day, but it wasn't a sellout.
Well, that was interesting. And despite that huge banner, they hung up in center field and a lot of efforts to turn it into a saleable item. This is hit right into the shift, and it's past Alomar. The Mets had a shift on for Palmeiro, and he hit it right at Alomar, who could not handle the hot shot. Palmeiro was on.
Too hot to handle, they'll score it, I'm sure. That ball was scalded. Palmeiro with that sweet swing. The ball toward the end of the bat. And Robbie Alomar wasn't able to handle that ball. The ball was hit hard. Palmeiro now with the 270 batting average. Look at this swing. Scored an error on Robbie Alomar. Official score said it wasn't too hot to handle. It should have been handled.
So Teixeira, the batter. Teixeira flied out his first time. He's a switch hitter that this year has had a marked difference. He's hitting .333 right-handed and just .202 left-handed. And that's not good when you're a switch hitter, because you get about 3 times as many at-bats left-handed.
Yeah, usually if you're a switch hitter and you struggle from one side of the plate, it's usually when you're right-handed. You just don't see enough left-handed pitching.
There's the difference, and that's not good. You rarely see that in a switch hitter.
Yeah.
It's almost always like Alamar's. Chipper Jones was that way. Berkman and Houston. Those are generally the way you see it.
Todd Hundley when he was with the Mets.
Exactly.
Orlando Merced gave up batting right-handed and went to left-handed batting.
3 guys, Hundley, Merced, and J.T. Snell.
Yeah.
They've all done that.
And they all went to the left side of the plate. Robbie Alomar says when he does it, he flinches when the left-hander pitcher's pitching. That's not a good sign.
And it's foul. Well, remember, I asked J.T. Snell that, and he said the one thing is when you switch hit, breaking ball always breaks away from you. Right?
Into it.
Or breaks into you, and then suddenly you see a breaking ball break away from you.
You flinch.
You flinch.
Mm-hmm.
And a big sweeping left-handed breaking ball looks like it's going to hit you.
You flinch.
Right.
Speaking from a lot of experience of flinching, I could flinch with the best of them.
And that's why when the guys stayed at one side of the plate, that's the thing you have to get used to.
Saw a guy here at the ballpark tonight I caught in Kansas City named Steve Busby. First 2 years he threw no hitters. The only time it happened in the history of baseball, and hurt his arm after his second year. He had a breaking ball where he had flinching in the dugout.
Great arm, right?
Oh,
career ended way too soon.
When he got on the mound, you looked in his eyes and he thought he was going to throw no hitter.
3-2 is popped up into shallow center. Reyes out, Burnitz racing in. And Burnitz throwing back to first base here, and the ball hits the runner, but he will not be able to advance. Palmeiro got back and then thought about advancing, but Vance Wilson was close enough to that ball to prevent it. Reyes learned a little lesson there. Reyes didn't go out far enough.
Yeah, he didn't go out far enough. I'm surprised, but Jeremy Burnitz called for it. So he makes the catch, and then he fires to first base. Good move by Burnitz. He had a shot at Palmeiro trying to get back to first base.
I was just saying only because the wind is blowing straight. The high balls are being blown straight in.
Yeah, the other thing is when you're a young player, you come into the big leagues, no matter what your credentials are like, you defer to a veteran. And, you know, he can get over that in a hurry. And the manager will tell him, look, if you want to be more aggressive, go ahead, get out there until he calls you off.
So Michael Young bats. And takes a strike. Young got things going in the second for the Rangers with a triple to deep right center. Quickly Trachsel ahead 0-2. There was a guy that was a difference of opinion within the Texas organization about him. And there's a guy that Jerry Narron, who managed here last year, wanted because they liked him in the field. He drove and wound up driving in 62 runs.
Ty Wigginton told me before the ball game down the field that he played against this kid, and he said he's a good second baseman. Yeah. Played against him in the minor leagues.
Well, that's what, there was a difference of opinion because in the front office they wanted offense at every position.
They got it.
A couple of, and a couple of people, other people were thinking, well, we need some defense here. And Young ended up, drove in 62 runs last year. Ball 2 strikes.
The Mets went to their minor leagues to bring up Jose Reyes. They've said that he'll only be up for a short period of time until Sanchez gets better. I'm assuming that if he really clicks, the Mets would love to keep him in the big leagues. He'll bring an energy to New York, to Shea Stadium.
And Young gives that a shot. Deep left center. Back goes Timo, and it's gone. So Michael Young, 2 strikes, 2 outs. 2-run homer.
How about a triple and a home run so far in this game? Young scalded that ball after hitting the ball off the center field wall. There's no doubt about this one. He hit it over the left center field wall. Picks up a 2-run home run. And the Rangers right now is 5 runs as opposed to the Mets 2 runs. And Young has caused some damage here.
That's been frustrating to the Mets, especially lately. A lot of 2-out runs. That was 2 outs, and he was 0-2 on Young. Michael Young with his 5th home run. He's driven in 29 runs this year. He's put to rest any question about his bat. Bench lifts this ball towards right, and that's going to be just on a play.
Now, once again, you take a look at that drive. It was measured at 408 feet for the Texas Ranger second baseman.
You know, people, Young talking about the ball here, people like the Mets, some of the Met players who had not been here during BP, Fran, were looking at it where Young hit that home run and saying, well, that's a long way out there. And I said, you know what? Not when you watch the ball here. It is.
Ball jumps in this ballpark.
Ball goes. And look at the Dreyfus. Look at the numbers. Get that back up there for you. Home runs per ballpark. San Juan, I don't think we should. That one doesn't really count. But it's Miller Park here and Cincinnati. And they're talking about Cincinnati being a launching pad. There have been as many home runs hit here.
Yeah, of course. The balls are better, the hitters are better, the hitters are bigger, they're stronger on a whole than they have been over the years. We just had a second baseman hit a ball 408 feet.
Mind you of your playing days?
Oh, yeah. The second baseman we play with, pinging the ball left field, pinging the ball to right field, stealing bases.
Thinking Felix Mian.
Choked up on the bat.
Yeah, 3 of his best shots together, 408 feet, right?
I think he just hammered poor Felix.
No, Felix is a terrific player, but that wasn't his game.
I agree.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm thinking Nellie Fox, guys like that. But we have a second baseman in this ball game for the Rangers who has a triple and a home run. He'll get to bat 2 more times. They say the toughest one is the triple and hit per cycle. Second most difficult is the home run. We'll see if he gets a double and single.
So just having a hard time finishing off guys. He's gone to 3-2 here again. This night, sitting outdoors here in Texas. Lifted, foul, and out of play. Did a really good job with this ballpark.
Well, they really have. And, you know, once again, we see an area that's been built up around the ballpark, and you're told time and time again a new ballpark doesn't do anything for an area. And every time we go to a new ballpark, you look at the area, and it's unbelievable how it's been built up. We talk about Pac Bell, Camden Yards. So when New York gets one, it should be a state-of-the-art stadium.
Ball 4. So the inning prolonged as Menches gets that confirmed by the umpire that indeed is ball 4, and Trachsel's pitch count running up now at a long at bat, 9 pitches, and Mench walks. Let's just hope that we're around when that happens.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, it'll be something special.
Yeah.
And when the time is right, you know, there'll be ballparks built in New York, and we've seen the model of the ballpark, which would be quite a part. And we'll just think what it'll do for the surrounding area.
Well, this one is unique because they incorporated an office building into the ballpark. The whole center field structure that rises up above the bleachers, those are all office buildings. Offices, the radio station that broadcasts the Texas Ranger games is located out there, and that whole structure was partly real estate and partly to block the wind. They've got the right field, the double deck in right field was taken after Tiger Stadium.
You know, it really does look like that deck at Tiger Stadium.
Yeah, that was a direct imitation, the double deck in right field.
And, you know, the players don't care about the office space up there. They care about no wind.
Right, exactly. So
Yeah,
posts.
just like Tiger Stadium. They had the overhang at Tiger Stadium.
Upper deck would hang out, what, about 2 rows, I think it was? 2 rows would hang out over the lower deck.
Steve Trachsel missing with that big curveball. He's thrown some pretty good sliders and some splitters tonight, but he's been inconsistent as you look at Doug Glanville. In fact, telltale sign is he walked Doug Glanville. That's tough to do. Vance Wilson now out talking to Steve Trachsel. When a pitcher labors, you see a lot of just missing with the pitches around the plate, a lot of meetings on the mound. When it's clean and crisp, like Jay So last Friday night against the Mariners, you know, he was throwing strikes, getting ahead. Very few meetings on the mound. When David Weathers came in the ball game, then Armando Benitez.
Yeah, this is a grind right now.
Yeah, he is laboring.
So will pitch tomorrow night here.
Boy, he has been a terrific surprise for the Mets. He had a bad arm a couple years ago. He was overpowering prior to his operation. Not overpowering now, but Mets are very high on Jay So as you look at the bullpen, and they are relaxed.
There goes the runner, and Diaz with a check swing foul. This is inning. The Mets had a little offensive momentum going in the top half. This bottom half of the inning has been interminable. And you're starting to see that reflected in the players on the field.
See Vern Rule looking out. Diaz, by the way, led Major League catches with 34 doubles in 2001. Jose Reyes.
Well, I shouldn't say he's the only guy. He's happy to be here.
Oh, are you kidding? He doesn't care, Steve.
Phillips, too.
And nobody cares how long a guy holds the ball.
And that is a foul ball outside the third.
First day in the big leagues, your feet are, right now he's been called up for his first day this year. And Jose Reyes' feet aren't even on the dirt out there. They're off the ground, and he doesn't even know it.
Fran, I stood down there outside of third base, watched him take some ground balls in BP tonight. And, I mean, he has just got, in the field is where you can really see the special tools, the things that separate him. Throws the ball, absolute cannon of an arm.
And of course, he's going to be fine when he's a switch hitter. He's got a base hit already in this ball game. By the way, he will lead off next inning for the Mets.
On maybe playable. Phillips is going to hope here near the dugout. Nope, runs out of room. Reyes will bat third in the fourth inning, but he will bat.
How about how exciting the excitement he can bring to a ball club. And I mentioned in the opening of the game, last year he was picked as the most exciting player in 2 different leagues.
Jay Bell was taking his throws. Jay Bell was taking the throws at first base from Reyes during first rounds of batting practice tonight. And I mean, Jay was laughing because Reyes was throwing rockets over there.
Yeah, I watched him.
And I said, does that remind you of a young Jay Bell? And he started laughing. He said, didn't he?
Yeah, he looked terrific throwing that ball across the infield. I'm sure that Art Howe's told him, don't worry about your bat, because that's the best thing you can tell a young player until he starts hitting. But he's going to worry about his bat, but he'll tell him, don't worry about your bat. Just go out there and play defense. Youngest player in the majors. We told you about the 26 stolen bases. You see his height and weight.
I'd say he's bigger than you think. I'm not sure if that measurement's still accurate. 6'160", because he is. That's the thing about him that surprised me in spring training. Yeah, he's a bigger kid than you think.
Unfortunately, in spring training, we didn't get to see him play to his potential because he had the injury. But again, I'm sure that the Mets are concerned about making sure that he's not worried about his hitting. Just go out there and catch the ball. Another thing managers will try, they'll say, look, you're going to go out there, you're going to be my shortstop, don't worry about anything, I don't care if you hit. That relaxes the hitter. If you tell a guy you got to hit, forget about it. He'll be as tight as a drum.
Well, another battle. Trachsel had a 9-pitch meeting with Mensch, and now 9 pitches with Diaz. And this is the 7th and 8th guys in the order. So closing in on 40 pitches in this inning. And finally, The end is in sight. Alomar there, and that takes care of it. But the Rangers get 2 more, and Michael Young's home run. 5-2 Texas after 3. G Mets Tuesday. Jason Phillips, then Vance Wilson and Jose Reyes to face John Thomson. Phillips fly to right his first time.
We saw the bullpen up already tonight for the Texas Rangers, and it was almost like Buck Showalter was unhappy and he wanted to show John Thomson, look, we got your lead, so throw strikes. And right now it's 2-0. You might see the bullpen up in a hurry again, because nobody up right now. They were up last inning, but you know, you lose 9 in a row, and I'm telling you, the manager's disgusted. You get a lead, and all of a sudden you're not in the strike zone, so he's going to show the pitcher by embarrassing him, getting somebody up.
Thomson now has thrown 60 pitches. Buck Showalter here is being urged in the newspapers here today to do the similar thing the Mets are considering. Rangers, with this 9-game losing streak, has pretty much ended any pretense of winning this year. That's hit pretty well to right field. That's hit real well. And Everett is going to run out of room, and that's gone for Jason Phillips.
How about that?
Yeah, no, that's not a good hitter's park, is it?
No.
Jason Phillips' 3rd home run of the year.
We talked about Tiger Stadium out there in right field. The right field bleachers built like they had them in the old Tiger Stadium, a home run hitter's ballpark. And Jason Phillips, it's a fly ball to right field. He's been impressing the Mets not only with his defense, but his offense. He can get behind the plate, he can play first base, and he can hit a home run. He's got 3 of them.
Watching before the game, that's what the Met players notice, is that the ball really flies to right field here. And Jason Phillips took advantage. So it's 5-3 Texas. And you watch that ball, and you say that was Coors Field.
Yes.
Got him where it's sea level.
A fly ball that got into the first row out there in right field. As you look at Jose Reyes, he'll bat this inning. Nobody out. Focus has been on Jose Reyes, called up today. Rey Sanchez disabled. So Jose Reyes will hit in this inning. You saw Jason Phillips go deep, and it's now 5-3.
The Mets actually made 2 moves today. As you know, if you've been with us, Timo Perez is also back, and the Mets designated Raul Gonzalez today.
Player of the year, Raul Gonzalez in the minor leagues.
There's a swing and a miss. So Vance Wilson out on strikes. Number 4 for John Thomson. So here's Jose Reyes, and with him comes the duck.
And the question reads, who was the last pitcher and position player to play with the Mets as a teenager?
All right, so it's 2 different players there. Is it a pitcher and a position player? I think a pitcher, pretty easy to figure out. Position player, well, you saw the names earlier. Let's think about that. Reyes, the ground ball to right field for a base hit his first time.
They're going to try to find out what he can hit, what he can't hit. His first time up, the ball was down right there.
He's going to get it inside, don't you think?
Thompson wants it inside. Right there, they're going away outside. How about that?
It's the ball right to the third baseman, Blaylock. Reyes is out, 2 down. No, Reyes scored all the way from first base after his hit.
Here it is again. The ball is a pitch that Reyes hits down the third baseline. He hustles out of that batter's box, and he's thrown out at first base. So scored 5-3. Reyes now 1 for 2 in this game. So he'll bat a couple more times.
He scored all the way from first when Cedeno hit a line drive double to the gap in left center. John Thomson thinking, get through this inning, get me one more, at least qualify for a win.
He's thinking that way, and Buck Showalter's in the dugout. And when you're out of the strike zone and you have a lead, it drives a manager out of his mind. I get the biggest kick out of the manager say, I can deal with hits, I can deal with home runs, I can't deal with walks. I'm not so sure the whole thing is true. The walks drive me crazy, but so do the home runs and the other hits. It's like they say mental errors. I don't mind a physical error. Like heck they don't. They mind physical errors. They just got to control themselves. But Jason Phillips didn't have to control himself. He hit a home run this inning. We had him on Mets Inside Pitch the other day in an interview. He's a terrific interview. And Mets Inside Pitch this week is featuring the ALS project. They had a big event at Shea Stadium last Friday night. Celebrities from television, movies, Broadway, and former Met great players took part in the event.
Fouled away, and that's going to be out of play. So many baseball players have, through the last, I guess it's almost 20 years now, given so much to ALS. Two prominent first basemen in the 80s. Kent Herbeck played in Minnesota, and Pete O'Brien, who played here. And in Seattle, both lost their fathers to ALS. And sort of introduced that cause into the consciousness of the baseball world. Out to left center, Glanville running it down, and that puts the Mets away in the inning. They get one on the home run by Jason Phillips. That brings them within 2. Your answers. Last pitcher as a teenager had to be Doc, and Jose Oquendo. Last position player 20 years ago. Bottom of the 4th, it'll be Glanville, then Everett and Blaylock for Texas. Trachsel still out there for the Mets. Glanville walked his first time. This series, the original schedule that was drawn up last year for 2003, the Mets were going to be playing in Oakland. And then go to Anaheim this weekend, and it got changed. Don't know why, but it was changed to the Mets playing here in Texas. But it's funny, I'm looking at the out-of-town scores out there on the board in left field. And you look at these matchups, I'm not seeing a lot of buzz right now. There's one, St. Louis, Boston, and that's a real good. And that, of course, harkens back to the 1967 World Series.
Also, the famous series of what was it, 46?
Yeah. 67 series, probably the last time the Cardinals played at Fenway.
Yes. Started to generate a lot of interest in Boston.
Glanville ropes that to left center. He'll be held. Burnitz, a nice job there by Burnitz. Playing as he always does out there. Got hard in that gap and made sure Glanville only got a single. Well, the 2003 new Mets merchandise catalog available offers a great selection of items like the orange BP jersey. Call 877 the game to get your copy. And a lot of Met fans here. So. In fact, Tom Glavine was signing autographs during batting practice tonight for some Met fans seated by the Met dugout. This is during BP, and all of a sudden Met fans were crawling out of the woodwork. People wearing Met jerseys and shirts and hats.
Saw him coming into Ballpark tonight early.
And I'll tell you that the cheer and the goodwill of the Mets was spread internationally the last 2 weeks in Paris. Our man John McEnroe wore his Mets cap proudly.
Huge Mets fan, huh? Not a bad tennis player. Could have been a pretty good left-handed pitcher, I think.
Everett pops this up. So after 2 hits, Everett retired here on first chance for Reyes. Glanville holds put. Blaylock the batter.
Well, we've been talking about...
McEnroe's a big Hernandez. Oh. Left-handers alike.
Oh, yes. Keith, an excellent tennis player. I saw Keith play tennis one day, and he was outstanding. His decorum wasn't the best, but
Blaylock is struck out, grounded into a double play. I think they have a lottery in spring training within a team to decide who hits in front of a guy like A-Rod. Can you imagine how many guys would love that?
you know, it's amazing because when you're catching, you know who's on deck as you look at Pedro Feliciano in the bullpen. And you call the pitches according to that guy on deck. Now, if the guy at the plate is more dangerous, that's different. But with A-Rod on deck, you are concerned about getting that ball in the strike zone. You're going to throw that fastball. It doesn't have to be on the corners. Blaylock is hitting 349.
Looks like the rope may be running out here for Trachsel. He needs a ground ball right at somebody here. You know, a couple of years ago in San Francisco, the Giants decided to move Rich Aurelio, the New Yorker, up in the order. They wanted to bat him second. And Aurelio thought of himself as a run producer. He said, I drive in runs. I like hitting down 6, 7 in the order. And hitting second, he didn't think that was so great. 2-1. Well, then he got in the lineup. After about 5 games, he realized he was hitting in front of Barry Bonds.
That'll help.
He had the best year of his life. He had 37
sure.
home runs that year, hitting in front of Bonds. The year Bonds hit 73.
They're going to take their chances with the guy hitting in front of Barry Bonds. And Rich Aurelio is a good, solid major league player. Turned into a real good offensive player also. Like Doug Glanville, their leadoff first base. Pretty interesting stance over there. It's almost like he's hitting from the left side of the plate when he's leading off first base. Is that last pitch to Blaylock? Ball tailing away, good fastball, and Blaylock swings right through it.
Two and two.
Glanville wasn't even in his stance when he threw there. But he's over there like a guy hitting. Watch him prepare to run. He puts his hands to the left side of his body. Look at this. It's like he's going to hit.
Oh, that one's in a ton. And it's going to stay fair. Home run for Blaylock. Hank Blaylock hits his 11th home run. And the Rangers now lead 7-3. Well, Trachsel, who gave up 4 home runs at Shea in his last start against Milwaukee, has given up 2 here tonight, and his night's come to an end. Art Howe makes the call for Pedro Feliciano.
So Blaylock, who's hitting around 350, goes deep in a major league fashion. And you know what? If he keeps hitting like that, the catcher's going to say, the heck with A-Rod, we got to get this guy out. Well, one of the leading hitters in the American League, and he hit a long home run off Steve Trachsel. So that'll do it for Steve Trachsel. Pedro Feliciano making his way into the ball game.
So the Mets have come to Texas and found out about the Rangers offense. 7 runs, and we're in the 4th. His last start at home in the OTB finishing line tonight. Well, that's not the line that anybody wants. And
91 pitches. 55 strikes. He lasted 3 1/3 innings. 1 strikeout. And he was laboring from the first pitch on.
So Pedro Feliciano in from the bullpen to face A-Rod. Go get him, big boy.
They're going to say, hold him right here. Pedro's going to say, right here, I got A-Rod hitting. I think the big thing for a young pitcher when you look at A-Rod is to get by that that name first and then focus on the catcher's glove. It's an intimidating thing to see a guy with his credentials at the plate and you're pitching to him.
Gets him here on a pop-up. Phillips allowed to play. Of course, as they say, Fran, it sure beats pitching to a AAA guy, doesn't it?
Oh, well, this is a big thrill. I mean, Pedro Feliciano faces A-Rod, and you know what? He feels pretty good about the outcome, so he can walk away saying, I got A-Rod against Palmeiro. And you know what? It helps his confidence. Then he says, hey, these guys are human. Let's face it, A-Rod, he bats around 320, so he's unsuccessful how many times? In 10 at-bats?
That's really what guys, when the Rockies first started in Denver, all the negative thoughts went around about pitching in Denver. That's what a lot of people were telling their pitchers. Listen, we can arrange for you to pitch in a AAA game if you prefer.
That's right.
It's a big league stadium.
That's the most important thing. A lot of guys I interview, I'll ask them their most memorable moment in the major leagues. And a lot of them say the day I put on a major league uniform and played my first game.
Palmeiro fouls one back, and it's 1-1.
Rich Gossage told me that he put on a major league uniform. It was like going to Disney World. And 22 years later, he said, I got off the ride. How about that?
There it is tonight. It's starting for Jose Reyes tonight.
And it's like Disney World.
Palmeiro goes around 1-2.
Biggest thing is to keep that feeling throughout your career. Palmeiro's kept it to the point where he's hit over 500 home runs and he checks his swing there. What, is he at the nicest, smoothest swing for a home run hitter? I mean, it's very little effort. 500 home runs. Wow.
Think of him. Palmeiro's hit 500 home runs. He's got a shot to get to 3,000 hits. He's only been in the All-Star game 4 times. Never led his league in home runs.
But he's
never finished in the top 4 in any one year in MVP poll. That's amazing.
And he'll go to the Hall of Fame.
He was going to go to Cooperstown. And that's strike 3 call.
How about Pedro Feliciano gets A-Rod, and then he strikes out Palmeiro.
How about that? 7-3 Texas. Life can be better than it was perhaps at the end of last year with the Mets when you get 7 runs in 4 innings. Makes your life a little smoother.
And makes you a different pitcher because you don't need to throw that first pitch on the corner. Throw the ball over the heart of the plate. Take your chances.
Timo Perez back tonight. First start in almost a month. Double in a sacrifice bunt.
Sure, Oral Hershiser has told Thompson, look, go on out there and just throw the ball over the plate. Use your defense. Robbie Alomar on deck. There's Oral Hershiser.
That's a ground ball by first. Nicely played by Teixeira. Good job by the rookie. Takes a hit from Timo. New York Mets baseball brought to you in part by the most respected, honored, and heroic 4x4s out there, only in a Jeep. 4x4. By T-Mobile, get more minutes, more features, more services. And by Heineken. It's all about the beer. Heineken. Arlington, Texas. Halfway between Dallas and Fort Worth. Strike to Alomar.
Here's that ground ball, and it's fielded cleanly. And the play at first base. Shearer making a nice play. And they're going to try him again. You know, a few years ago, Rafael Palmeiro was the designated hitter with the Texas Rangers. Didn't play very much at first base and won the Gold Glove. You know what? I thought that took the luster off the Gold Glove award.
Palmeiro does not want to be in the DH right now. He's not happy about the fact that he may be destined for more time as the DH here, and his contract is up at the end of the year. Palmeiro. That's a question to be resolved. So 1-2 to Alomar.
You know, not many players want to be a designated hitter. It's still tough to digest. Even I'll bet for Edgar Martinez. He had to sit in the dugout at Shea Stadium when the Mariners were playing the Mets.
There's an oops for an out. Tonight, 11:30 on MSG Network. All of the day's action. Highlights, including more on Jose Reyes' debut. Devils party, Nets hope to. They've got some work to do, though. All on Sports Desk, presented by Toyota. Tonight, 11:30 on MSG. So Cliff Floyd, a fly ball out and a strikeout.
Again, you know, that last at bat, you saw the slider. Now look at this. This is an excuse me. Now, when you do that, you feel like $1 million when that ball goes into left field. But when it goes into a glove, you feel terrible. It was a wasted at bat as far as the hitter's concerned.
Cliff Floyd, not thrilled about being the DH tonight. Said he was going to ride the bike continuously. Try to keep a sweat going between turns here.
Well, you probably work harder doing that than you would in left field. But when you're in the ball game with the glove in your hand, you know, you focus on your defense. He walks right there. As a DH, you got to talk to those veteran DH hitters. They have a routine they go through. Today, the hitters are lucky because there are batting cages underneath the stands. I mean, first-class batting cages where they can go in and hit.
And so, before the game tonight, I was talking with a guy who wound up being a pretty good DH, one of the best in the 30 years of the rules so far, and it's Don Bailey. Don spent the last 8 or 9 years of his career as a DH. And he said the same thing. He said, when I was a young player, and Dave Garcia first suggested it to me, I really fought it. I didn't want it. And he said, a lot of the ballparks, you didn't have anything to do. Burnitz fouls it away. And so the guy that he learned about DHing from was Tommy Davis. He's a terrific hitter, spent a year with the Mets, actually. And in Baltimore, Tommy Davis was a DH. Don said Tommy would go up in the clubhouse between his turns as the DH, and he'd play basketball one-on-one against Jim Palmer.
By the way, he was
Palmer couldn't start.
He was an all-city basketball player in New York, Tommy Davis. Yeah. Jim Palmer was an outstanding basketball player, so that must have been a pretty good game.
But he said that's how Tommy Davis would stay ready for his at-bats as a DH. He'd go play one-on-one up at a hoop they had outside the old Oriole clubhouse in the old stadium.
I'd love to see Earl Weaver watch that basketball game. He must have been real happy. Of course, he couldn't get Jim Palmer to listen to him anyways.
So, you know, Donnie was saying, you know, back in a lot of the old ballparks, Fenway and Tiger Stadium, places like that, there was nothing. There were no bikes, no cages, nothing to stay loose on.
You have to swing the bat in the clubhouse. But now you don't have to do that because of the batting cages. You can run underneath the stands. I know Hal McRae was a very productive DH. And when we used to get on him about being a half a player, he'd say, you can shake a tree and get glove men. Yeah. You can't do that with offensive players.
Burnitz takes low, 1-2. Did a little research today for something I'm writing. 4 best DHs. To me, it's in the 30 years that the rule has been in existence.
McRae had to be one.
Absolutely. Now we'll get to it. 2-strike, 2-out rule. Burnitz out. When we come back in the bottom of the 5th, Thompson's now qualified for a win. 7-3 Texas. Texas in the bottom of the 5th inning. So one man's list of the top 5 DHs of all time. In reverse order, number 5, Harold Baines. He did it the longest. Harold Baines DH more than anyone. Number 4 was McRae. Number 3, Don Baylor. There's Donnie. Although the year Baylor won the MVP for the Angels, he actually played the field about 100 games that year. So I was surprised when I found that out. Teixeira hits this one a ton, and that Burnitz's watch. Well, that's his side. We told you he's a much stronger hitter as a rookie from the right side, and the Mets just saw it firsthand. Teixeira's 8th home run, and it's the 8th Texas run of the night.
And when he goes in the dugout, they'll say, did you get it all? And he can honestly say, yes. He clobbered that ball right over that 400-foot mark out in center field. Watch this. He got every bit of that ball. It sounded like a home run. And it was. The race was on.
That is the 99th home run hit by Texas this year. And this is their 62nd game.
Jeez.
It's nuts.
And they are trying to break a losing streak of 9 in a row.
And that tells you something about the home run there, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Michael Young with a triple and a 2-run homer tonight. So the number 2 DH all-time, Paul Molitor, who had Paul Molitor's going to go to the Hall of Fame because of it. He had almost 1,500 hits as a designated hitter.
He was a pretty good defensive player when he came up with Milwaukee.
Until injury just destroyed his ability to throw.
What about Orlando Cepeda?
And the ball hit back to Feliciano. Makes the play to first, 1-1. Well, Jose Reyes with a hit already, scored a run in his first big league game. And before tonight's game, Mets manager Art Howe on Reyes' debut.
It's only natural, but you know, I'm going to talk to him. I'm sure Donnie's going to talk to him. We'll all talk to him, try to remind him he's here because of what he's been doing, and just play the way you've been playing, and that'll be just fine. So, and I think he'll be able to handle it. He's a mature young man, and I know he's excited about getting this opportunity, and I hope he brings us a little more energy and helps us out.
Quote book, Tri-State Consumer Auto Insurance, and Reyes has not been challenged. He's had just one pop-up so far in the field and his one single in 2 at-bats.
Well, we talked about it earlier. So far, his feet are not on the ground.
That's good.
He's got a base hit. And the Mets, of course, said that, you know, we're bringing him up, but we're only going to keep him here for a couple of weeks. I'm sure they told him, just go out and play shortstop. Don't worry about the hitting. Relax. And then they're hoping that he gets it together and they can keep him.
Well, heck, he can celebrate his 20th birthday tomorrow. The guys can take him across the street to Six Flags. He can ride the roller coaster. Turns 20 tomorrow. He still can't go out with the big boys.
It's unbelievable,
Gotta wait another year. And there's Mensch down, so 2 away. All right, so the number 1 designated hitter, you've got to be Edgar Martinez.
He's done it throughout his career. As you look at that last breaking ball, Edgar Martinez, who we saw in New York the other day, he picked up a pinch hit base hit against the Mets. He bats 4 or 5 times when the American League teams square off and they use the DH.
So you think about the fact that Seattle scored 20 runs in the doubleheader Sunday at Shea, and he didn't play.
Right.
I mean, their best all-around hitter, DH, didn't play. Into the hole. Well, here's Reyes. Look at this gun. Wow.
He's got a cannon.
A little padding in your first base glove, won't it? 8-3 now, Texas after 5 as we go to the MSG Sports Desk and check in with Jenna Wolf.
Home to play the Cardinals in a rematch of the '67 World Series in Boston. Follies and fun. First, Manny lazing out, capping the low-light reel 2 hands. Manny redeems himself, though, in the 7th with his 13th home run off Woody Williams. It is now 7-5, bottom 8. That's the Cardinals lead. We'll take a quick break.
All right, Jenna, thanks. And we're back here in Texas where John Thomson has finished 5 and given an awful lot of help tonight. 3 home runs, 8 runs for Texas. Wigginton to start the inning for the Mets. If one man gets on, Reyes will bat. Oh, Luden's brothers are in. At least one of them are here tonight. Cough drop gentlemen.
He's got his glove.
Do they still make those cough drops?
Yes, I believe they do. Yes, they do.
Wigginton chops one here. And boy, nice job, Blaylock, quickly to that ball.
Boy, Blaylock's been impressive in this ball game. Swinging that bat, hitting a long home run, charging that ball, making it look easy. And now we're going to take a look at our game summary. You see Reyes, a single. Round out, run scored. How about Texas? 3, 4, and 5 hitters, Ted.
Yep. Rod's been shut down tonight. That mattered. That's when you know you've got a lineup. So here's Jason Phillips. Phillips with a home run his last time, and a fly ball that got out of here to right field. A very Coors Field look to the home run.
Made a nice play at first base tonight. Turned it into a double play. We saw him one time catch a ball at first base, get the out at first, throw home, get involved in a rundown, and he made the tag out between third and home. Here's the home run he hit over that right field wall. And Carl Everett thought about jumping, then he realized he couldn't get it. So a home run for Jason Phillips.
Looking at catchers. There's Reyes getting ready for his next turn. One of the Mets' all-time best is here tonight, Jerry Grody.
Great defensive catcher. And he became even better when Tom Seaver and Jerry Kuznick showed up, then Gary Gentry, John Matlock. Behind every great receiver is a heck of a pitching staff. And Jerry Grody, fundamentally, he was as sound as you could get.
Phillips drives one right to Glanville. That's 2 down. Jerry lives down in he's in southern part of Texas. I can't recall the exact town. Thomson right at 100 pitches. But still follows the Mets. Came to Houston last year when the Mets played there.
Look at this. Is that keeping score?
I like that.
Or it might be writing a note in a diary.
Either that or she's filling out her Powerball ticket. What do you think?
That's it.
School's out. Start to see the youngsters here during the week even.
Hey, how about that?
Wow, look at that.
Official score right there, keeping score.
Okay, you know what that is? That's, well, I'm guessing from, I can't tell if that's a teenager or a mom.
That's a scoring book.
Yeah, but I'm saying, is that a teen mom from a softball team? It could be.
Yeah, but how many people have the whole book?
Yeah.
Usually you get the scorecard here at the ballpark.
Right.
Now we're going into the dugout. Now we're getting professional.
Yeah. No, I don't know about that. I'd say that's pretty good right there.
Yeah, that's a professional scorer's book.
See, I couldn't even do that. And it's Wilson with a little chopper. And Thomson makes the play. So Reyes left in the on-deck circle. He'll bat in the 7th. Thomson now getting a little stronger as the game goes along. With the field and a variety of terrific food choices, and select suites are still available for the Yankees visit to Shea to play the Mets the weekend of June 20th through 22nd. Call the number you see right there, sir. Take advantage, grab your pencil, write that number down, and call it during business hours. Find out about the Mets Diamond View Suites at Shea.
Well, it's a great place to entertain. The food is terrific. It's a place to relax, watch the game, and keep score. You have the scorecards right in there.
Well, it can be a pretty entertaining weekend.
Yankee Mets, absolutely, it always
the Yankees
is.
come to Shea, take advantage of getting in the suite. There's some Hook'em Horn fans. And somebody with a bobblehead.
You know, the Texas.
I'm trying to see whose bobble is that? Whose head is bobbling? Palmeiro? That's a Palmeiro, huh?
I thought that was coming up. They're having a big promotion here with Rafael Palmeiro. You know, how about University of Texas? A guy I played minor league ball with went on and coached that basketball team. Tommy Penders, who was an outstanding coach, good baseball player, and an outstanding fast-pitch softball player. You know Tommy.
Absolutely.
Tommy was a second baseman in Double-A ball when I was there. Went to the University of Connecticut. Oh, yeah, he's a good player. Now, from what I heard, an outstanding fast-pitch softball player, John Harper, who writes for the Daily News, an outstanding softball player with Tommy Penders.
Fast pitch.
Fast pitch.
Wow. Two and one here to Glanville. Pedro Feliciano inheriting the long man role. And Glanville takes him the other way for a base hit. So Glanville's been on 3 times tonight, 2 singles and a walk.
You know, you mentioned the long man role. Nobody wants it except, you know, as you mentioned earlier, it's better than pitching in AAA. You go in and as a long man, and if you impress the manager and the pitching coach, you might get a shot at either being a middle reliever, closer, or a starter, get an opportunity, and you could do it by impressing them in a game like this.
Meal money's pretty good, isn't it?
Major League, absolutely.
Everett, a big swing and a miss. So here's a guy who's obviously had tremendous years in the past. His behavior, his erratic behavior, well documented. And here he is having this terrific start in his contract year.
You know, it's funny. He's had some real good years in years that aren't his contract years, but it becomes, I guess, more than a coincidence when a player has that big year in his contract year. Unfortunately for the player, he's looking at his back foot on that back line that no longer exists.
Big high chop. Phillips got caught in the middle. Now he's going to take it.
How about that slide? You know, we had a shot of his back foot on that line that doesn't exist. It's important for the leadoff hitter to go to the plate before the game starts and erase that line. There's Everett hitting on top of that fastball. Now watch the slide. Usually you slide when you have a chance to get to first. He just slid to say, I slid. He was 5 feet from first base. There it is right here. Now what happens is when you get a leadoff man on your team, you want him to go up and just erase that line, because then you can move this foot back further and further. And it's up to the catcher to watch it and say to the umpire, hey, he's out of the batter's box.
And now Glanville will go as Wilson was unsure of where that ball ended up. And Glanville ends up at third base.
And here's that last pitch, the break on that pitch in the dirt. And all you can do then is try and block it, try to keep it in front of you.
Now, Fran, that last shot we saw of Everett jars of memory. Wasn't Everett the guy that got in a huge beef with an umpire?
Yes, in Boston.
When he was playing with Boston, right?
Yes.
Because of that thing, because his foot was behind the back line of the batter's box, wasn't that it?
Yeah, you know what? They said he was out of the batter's box. He was too close to the plate.
Too close to the plate.
But
okay.
You know what? If they really and truly looked at it logically, at that time, I believe you didn't have the line,
the inside line,
next to home plate.
Right. They put that in after this incident, didn't they?
So therefore, all you have to do is have a foot on that chalk of the batter's box, and you're in the batter's box. Of course, he flipped out and ruined himself in Boston.
I thought, didn't they direct him to put that line back in after that Everett incident?
It was against the Mets it happened.
It was against the Mets, okay.
And Carl Everett just flipped out.
Right.
But for a while, nobody put that line in, the inside line in the batter's box.
Infield in here for the Mets, 1-2 count.
But the rule book states you have to be on the line or in the batter's box. But being on the line, you're in the batter's box. So they had a legitimate gripe. He just presented it in a fashion that made people sick to their stomach. There, now look at this, on the line. I'll tell you, when I was in Kansas City, they would have raced that line. And the hitter, they were, on our team, they'd be back at the backstop. They want to get as far away from the pitcher as they could. Hal McRae, John Mayberry, and those guys.
As a catcher,
I'd watch it.
Well, I'm saying, but as a catcher, did you ever have to adjust your stance and position if a hitter crept further back? Because you can't interfere with his bat.
Right. Well, you would. You know, I'll tell you what's really changed that today is the Charlie Lau theory of hitting, because you release the bat one hand and you get that backswing off your coconut. More so today than ever before.
I'm asking in terms of actually receiving the ball, because obviously you, as a catcher, your glove cannot interfere with the bat.
Right.
If a guy's creeping further and further, did you ever fear that? Hey, I may interfere with you.
Yes. Okay. And you know, you become concerned as you look at that last pitch. You become concerned because you're supposed, as a catcher, get as close to the hitter as possible.
Right.
Now, if they start moving back and they make contact with you, they're going to be on first base, called catcher's interference. I believe the guy who leads career-wise in catcher's interference, Pete Rose. He might have done it on purpose.
Well, that's a stat I had not heard before. Got him. Whitlock goes around, and he knew it. So Feliciano strikes him out. Now we'll face A-Rod with 2 down.
Here's that last pitch to Blaylock, the breaking ball that is down and outside, but he's unable to check his swing. And keep in mind, if you're a youngster watching the game and you had a bad night and you struck out, second leading hitter in the American League just looked bad on the breaking ball.
Brian Schaus and Aaron Fultz. 2 left-handers warming up in the Texas bullpen. Remember, the Texas Rangers play in the American League, just in case you're confused by this.
Sometimes I am when I look at that scoreboard.
But they play in the American League with a designated hitter. They have 8 relievers right now on their roster. They have 8 relief pitchers.
You know, that says the staff's in trouble.
They're only using 4 starters, and then
here's that leg kick. It gets down in time, but bang, it's by A-Rod.
Oh, and look at the backswing.
At that releasing with that one hand. Again, look at the backswing. That'll take away a catcher's aggressiveness on a stolen base also. Watch the backswing. Swings at a bad ball and comes around. Now just think if you're coming up throwing there, you're going to get hit in the head. And they say that's his natural swing. And there are a lot of guys today with that type of a swing where they release the bat with one hand.
That's when you get a cutter in the ribs in the next pitch. That was the guy's natural pitch.
That's right. Meantime, the catcher's going to the hospital for stitches.
Got him.
And again, the backswing.
Well, Feliciano has figured out a way to get A-Rod. He's got him out twice. Mets, I guarantee the Mets will remember that.
Down low, he pulls it in the hole between first and second. So Reyes with a hit. Then he scored on a base hit or a double off the bat of Roger Cedeno. And he was flying around the bases, no throw. Raps from his teammates, and now he'll lead it off, but this time from the right side of the plate.
First at bat right-handed, facing left-handed reliever Aaron Fultz. Last 3 years in San Francisco, Fultz done a nice job for Texas. Reyes fouls it back. So the ball was thrown into the Met dugout after Reyes' first hit. Now, will he still get a ball in his locker tonight after the game that will say, congratulations on your first hit, but it was an ugly 5-hopper that should have been an error?
No, they won't do that.
They don't do that?
No.
I mean, on a fake ball. I'm saying it won't
Maybe
be the real
on a fake ball.
Yeah, well, it's not the real ball.
But
that's,
you know
that's a tradition that a lot of teams have.
Yeah, but I wonder with what the Mets are hoping to get out of this kid, if they will joke, or maybe they might joke around like that.
Then they give him the real ball. It's pulled into the corner, and that one is going to be a fair ball. And Reyes has got his first extra base hit as he's turned on that ball from the right side and hooks a double to the left field corner.
So that's what Reyes needed. We talked about it early on, a couple hits to relax him. And here he takes a fastball up high. He got his first hit from the left side, fouls off the fastball. So Reyes is getting more and more comfortable as he swings and misses, and then bang, gets out in front and pulls a pitch that's out over the plate to left field. And that there is important for his confidence. So he's got a hit from the left side of the plate and the right side of the plate. You know, he's probably saying, I like the message that I'm going to come up to the major leagues, play and relax, play for a couple weeks. The part I didn't like is I might be going back. I think if he feels comfortable and is impressive to the Mets,
well, that's the point.
The Mets are going to say, we're going to keep him in. I think the reason the Mets said, you know, in a couple weeks to go back is just to make him relax. But the Mets are hoping that he will catch on. He will be a very popular player if he swings the bat in New York. He can run. He's going to steal some bases. We saw a good, strong throwing arm. He fields his position well. And he's 19. He'll be 20 tomorrow, though.
Reyes will go to third here on this ground out by Cedeno. So 1 out, runner at third, and Timo Perez with that. Timo 1 for 2 with the sacrifice tonight. Well, the thing the Mets were very clear about trying to say tonight is that they don't want the word savior associated with Reyes.
You can't.
And that's why bringing him up now
in Texas
well, bringing him up now where the Mets are in the standings.
Right.
Makes sense. There are no saviors.
He'll be an important part of the building of the ball club into a winner. He's got great range. He's got an excellent glove and a very powerful throwing arm. And if he gives them some offense, which we talked about it earlier, he can do that. Be a tremendous plus to the organization.
Tapped over the mound. This will get a run home. And Michael Young got him. Perez just edge. A nice play by Young.
So Reyes scores, and they just beat Perez at first base. I'm telling you, Young looked good catching this ball and getting it to first base. They just tuned in. Young has a home run to triple in this game, and it's a nice play. He had to get rid of this ball quickly, all one motion to get Timo Perez. And Reyes scored. So Reyes with 2 hits in this game, and he scored 2 runs.
So now Alomar is going to hit from the right side here.
So the hip flexor is no longer bothering him, or he wouldn't stay in this game.
Wow, smokes one right back to Fultz. So the Mets get one, and only some defense and bad luck cost him a chance at more. Palmeiro leading off for Texas. Feliciano staying on the mound for the Mets. He's pitched 2 2/3 innings already. Struck out Palmeiro when he faced him in the 4th. Mets overshift the infield. Outfield straight away.
You know, it's amazing when you see the different approaches to hitting as you look at the defense for Palmeiro. You see guys at the big leg kicks, and then they try to drive the ball as hard as they can. This guy's got everything's soft, and then the swing is so smooth. And the ball explodes like right there. But you watch his stride. The high leg kick was popularized here with the Rangers. But look at that stride. It's almost non-existent. And the ball, the bat comes through the hitting zone in a smooth manner. And I don't think you can pull a muscle swinging. Watch how smooth he is.
And he hits this one to right field. And Cedeno can't get it. Palmeiro with number 504. In sport. It's his 504th career home run. It is the 100th home run hit by Texas this year in 62 games.
And he has a picture-perfect swing. Doesn't try to crush the ball. All he does is try to meet the ball. Put the sweet spot of the bat on the ball. And he does it. He's done it 504 times. Cubs got rid of him years ago because they said he wouldn't do this. He's done it a lot. No overswinging by Palmeiro.
You were talking about a swing, Fran.
Look at his stride. It's almost non-existent. Yeah. And his swing, all he does is he wants to get the head of the bat into the hitting zone, even or in front of his body.
When you watch Palmeiro's front foot here on this swing, 1 tap, 2 taps. That is a very unusual swing, though, isn't it, Fran?
Yeah, and look at this. Yeah, he tries to control his stroke and with his stride, but look at his body swinging around the post, keeping his weight back. Look at the arms out in front. It looks so easy. I watched him in batting practice. Couldn't believe with that almost non-existent stride that he could generate as much power as he does. Barry Bonds doesn't take a big stride either.
Oh, that's right. The funny thing is that the Rangers hitting coach, Rudy Jaramillo, he's talking to you right there, will tell you that Palmeiro's swing, it looks so effortless because he puts an incredible amount of work into it. Because of that double tap of his front foot. And it's funny because...
Watch this. Now look at this. You see this? They want your body to go around the post. Now watch him go through the hitting zone. It's a home run, 504. But you know, there's nothing where he doesn't jump the ball. His stride. Look at the tap that Ted's talking about. Now the stride.
The second one there.
Look at that. Almost, and then the bat comes through the hitting zone. but I was assuming that he's done a lot of work building strength. But keep in mind, he was traded away from the Cubs for, I suppose, a variety of reasons. One, they did publicly, they said he wasn't going to hit home runs and drive in runs. Of course, they were wrong.
You know, the only player that I can think of, and there may be others, I'm sure there are, but that kind of a double tap, how odd that is Rob Nen.
Yeah, as a pitcher. Right. But it's a timing device for the hitter.
But it's very different. I'm saying when you see someone do it as well as Palmeiro does it, you have to appreciate the amount of work. Because I know, for example, how long it took Rob Nen to master the pitching motion.
Now, here's that strikeout. Now, you know, it's funny because I played for a manager, Elmer Vallow, who was a 20-year veteran in Major League Baseball, and when I was an A-ball. And Elmer was a good hitter. And he said, you have to practice your stride. You have to practice putting that front leg down gently, but quickly. You can't hit it hard or your head will bounce.
Right.
You want the foot to get out there. But you got to get the foot down before the bat starts through. Nothing starts forward until you get that front foot down.
Check swing roller by Young. And there are 2 down here in the home half of the 7th inning in Texas. This copyrighted telecast presented by authority of Sterling Mets may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Sterling Mets. John Franco. Yeah, that's great to see. Made it an official season.
Great comeback. He surprised me. He went out there and he got operated on and went through rehab. Saw him at Shea Stadium during the winter working very hard.
Mensch drills one to the left field corner, and he's got himself a 2-out double.
Well, the Rangers can hammer. Mensch takes this pitch and hits a bullet in the left field. And he picks himself up a double, a hard double.
You know, I want to finish up on the Palmeiro point, Fran, and you made it a couple of times. When you watch Palmeiro swing in batting practice, I said to some guys that it looks like watching the pro. If you ever go to see a pro golf event, or you ever see a pro golfer on the practice range, that's the way they swing so easily. They look like they're not even trying. That's what that swing looks like.
And you know, you'll see some guys that every muscle in their body's being exerted when they swing the bat, but he just takes that bat and he has what they would really call a pretty swing. You don't hear that associated with right-handed hitters very often. Mark McGwire had a pretty swing. Mike Piazza has a pretty swing. But usually it's left-handed hitters. John Franco continues to throw in the pin, so we'll probably see John Franco in the ball game. But you got to be impressed with the way Palmeiro swings that bat.
Well, Art Howe was hoping Feliciano could finish this inning, but he's going to get Franco in right here. Feliciano, though, gave the Mets 3 1/3 innings, picking up Trachsel. 9-4 Texas. Pitching change here in the 7th.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. Coming in to pitch for the Mets, number 45, John Franco.
Mentioned earlier how hard he worked during the offseason. You would see him at Shea Stadium working hard in the weight room. Feliciano out of the ball game. And the Mets trailing 9-4 here in the bottom of the 7th inning.
And so Franco in his 4th appearance since coming back, now facing Diaz. Diaz with an RBI double and 3 trips tonight. Runner at second, 2 outs. This is John Franco's 1,002nd. 1,002nd, perhaps. It's 1,002 games in which he's pitched, Fran. Which ties Rich Gossage for 7th on the all-time list.
John Franco told me when he grew up in Brooklyn, they used to tell him he was too small. How about that? Over 1,000 appearances in Major League Baseball for a southpaw they told was too small. That's why you can't believe anybody, and don't let anybody discourage you.
But you know what's amazing? 1,002 games and not a single start. See, now I think you ought to get just a token start somewhere.
Well, he was a starter at St. John's.
Yeah. And a little bit in the minor leagues. And Diaz hits it right to Wigginton. So that takes care of the inning. After the Rangers get one, Franco comes in to get the last out. Palmeiro's 504th career home run. Aaron Foltz, left-hander, on for his second inning here for the Rangers. Well, they've got action going in the pen. Jay Powell warming up. And Floyd with the high bouncer played by A-Rod. Cliff got down that line pretty well there.
You know what happens is you forget about the injury. Now when you're done running, you say, oh, I'm in pain. But you smelled that hit.
New York Mets baseball brought to you in part by Hyundai. When your car comes with America's best warranty, you win. Hyundai.
Take a look at this. You know, your instincts, you forget about the injury and you want that base hit. Then after you're done running down the first base, you realize, you know what, I've been nursing this injury and now I'm really in pain. Before the game, he's in the trainer's room with ice on his knee and after, look at, see what that? In fact, we interviewed him. He'll be on the Mets Inside Pitch this week, and he talked about that. How you kind of forget. He also talks about his mom, how she's the inspiration for him in his baseball career. His dad is laid back, he said. But mom tells him, you're not delivering.
And you'll see it Thursday, 6 p.m. on MSG.
Nice feature on the ALS project. Nice event at Shea Stadium last week. Producer Roman Gukowski put together a heck of a feature. We had a lot of celebrities out at Shea, and Cliff Floyd is our guest talking about his mom and the inspiration she gives him. Talks to her almost every day, he told me.
Mom's in Chicago, I believe.
And she says, you're not delivering here. This is your job. You're supposed to do this. Well, Mother's Day must be tough.
Just think, Cliff won't be able to have his mom come see him unless she comes to New York until the end of September. The only time the Mets play in Chicago this year.
Yeah.
And Burnitz goes down swinging. So Foltz with a strikeout. 2 down here in the Mets half of the 8th. Mets swung the bats pretty well in the early innings, but the long innings in the field in the 3rd, 4th innings really seem to take a lot of steam out of them. Reyes, though, has been the bright spot.
He really has. He has a base hit from the left side of the plate and a double from the right side. Look, Showalter on the mound having a conversation. It's a 9-4 ball game. Must be talking about the wind.
Nope, it's going to bring Jay Powell in.
Must want to get him some work.
Yep. So Foltz got 5 outs, and now right-hander Jay Powell will relieve him. 2 outs in the 8th here in Texas. And fans at the ballpark. All right, we're going to keep looking until we see some.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, that's nice.
Priceless right there. Get the teddy bear. She's watching baseball. She said, you can't beat this.
You know, what's great about that is Jay Powell takes over on the mound. You know, no matter how times change and technology advances, stuffed dolls.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible.
Kids still go together.
You can get
I love that.
You can get the fanciest toys in the world. They go in the kitchen and get the top of the pot and drive the car.
And you know what? You could do anything to her, but you take that teddy away from her.
Oh, forget it.
It's over.
And you know what she's going to do? Call it a night.
There's a shot knocked down by Blaylock, and Wigginton will beat it out. So Wigginton hammered that ball. Blaylock played that pretty well. Gave himself a chance, but Wigginton is aboard.
Blaylock looking good at third base. And Wigginton smelled that hit. He goes down that baseline every time like that. That's why he's going to pick up a number of infield hits.
And he got one there. So here's Phillips. I'll tell you what else I've seen tonight, Fran, is Mark Teixeira was a third baseman coming out of Georgia Tech, and I can see now why he's not a third baseman. Blaylock looks like he handles that position pretty well.
Yes, he is, and plus he's hitting 350. So when you hit 350, you play any place you want.
There was talk that perhaps Blaylock could be a trade bait. This was in the past to make room for Teixeira, but it's the other way around now. The Rangers are trying to find a place for Teixeira. That's whacked by Phillips and fair to the left field corner. Wigginton to third will hold up there, and Jason Phillips into second base. Phillips with a home run and a double tonight. Now, Buck Showalter's got a look of concern on his face. Jay Powell is a guy that's been an awfully effective reliever in his National League career. But he's getting hit like this year.
And Jason Phillips scalds that ball down the left field line. Boy, he's been impressive since being recalled from the minor leagues when he showed up in San Francisco and played first base. Jason Phillips has been very impressive with his bat and his hustle around first base. Very aggressive defensively.
And Urbina in the bullpen now for the Rangers. But what Jay Powell's trying to figure out now, he's lost velocity. And Ora Hershiser was saying tonight, Powell's trying to figure out how to pitch with less velocity than he used to have.
That's the old adjustment. As time goes on, you have to make adjustments. And the guys that make adjustments stay around and are productive. The guys that don't stay around.
Vance Wilson 0 for 3 tonight. That was all against Thomson. Reyes with 2 hits on deck. Hit here by the Mets to make things interesting.
They load up the bases, it might make it interesting. You got Reyes on deck. You got runners on first and second, or I should say second and third.
Three and one. That's taking all the way, and it's 3-2. Well, he got 2 fastballs. Let's see if he gets a third one. Texas has a 5-run lead.
You got to go after. You got to throw him a strike. The easiest pitch of control is the fastball.
Ooh. And Wilson hits this one a ton to left field. That's out of here. Well, that wasn't the hit I was thinking about, but that sure does make it interesting.
Now 9-6, and Buck Showalter's thinking, I should have been a farmer coming from the natural. 9-7 now. Wilson's 3-run home run. How about the Mets now with 10 hits and 7 runs? And Reyes will be the batter. Buck Showalter is not happy. Remember the manager in the natural? Everything went wrong. He said, I should have been a farmer.
And Buck says, give me the ball. Jay Powell, 3 hitters, 3 hits, 3 runs, and all delivered on this big swing of Vance Wilson.
3 and 2. You had to throw him a fastball. You had to throw it over the plate. And he did. He threw him 3 fastballs in a row, and Vance Wilson ratty-tacked the bleachers in left field with a 3-run dinger.
And the Mets now are going to see the Rangers closer. Word that has given the Mets a pulse here in the 8th inning.
You had to throw him that pitch. You know what? It looked like a breaking ball.
That's a hanging slider, isn't it?
3-2 breaking ball.
Yeah.
And Vance Wilson pops that ball into the seats.
Well, that was a ball that
said, hit
that's
me.
a hanging banger. Exactly right.
Said, hit me and hit me hard.
So here's Uget Urbina. Closer for the Rangers this year. Has not pitched since last Tuesday when he had his 2nd blown save of the year in Atlanta. He's had 17 successful saves, and Jose Reyes comes right in here to face one of the better closers going. Or at least when Urbina's going right, he's one of the better.
This is a good story tonight. Reyes with 2 hits.
Now 0-2.
Doesn't cheat himself at the plate. Takes a pretty good rip. Hit the ball hard with 2 strikes his last time up from the right side of the plate. Hit a double down left field line. Denny Walling called him back to talk about Urbina.
And Reyes pops this up. Shallow left. And Blaylock goes back to take it. So Urbina puts Reyes down 2 for 4 for the Mets rookie in his debut. But Vance Wilson brings the Mets within 2 here right after Mets baseball tonight. And then after Angles will be Sports Desk. So we go to the bottom of the 8th, and now John Franco will try to keep it where it is at a 2-run game to at least give the Mets some hope. In the 9th, it's Glanville to start. And Franco in with a strike. Glanville has walked and singled twice, scored 2 runs. A couple of tack-on runs by Texas on home runs, now looming larger. Teixeira hit one in the 5th inning, and Palmeiro,
there he is,
in the 7th. There he is.
Not Palmeiro, the mascot. Mascot has his own dressing room downstairs. Looking good.
The new ballparks didn't forget anything, did they?
No. Having his picture taken in the stands. You know, it seems like all the visiting TV people that come into New York want to put Mr. Met on their games as you look at Glanville swing over that pitch from John Franco. See if John gives him the old out of the strike zone pitch. He has made more major league hitters swing at bad pitches.
On the ground to Reyes. But I love, I mean, this is just absolutely a beautiful thing. Watch the exchange here.
He short arms the ball with velocity. Watch this.
The exchange from the glove to the throwing hand.
And then he gets that ball up to his ear like a catcher, and he's got great velocity. He's got a strong enough arm to short arm the ball in the hole between third and short. Most guys have to go to that full extension of the throwing arm.
Everett with a little blooper, and this one, Alomar drops.
Well, Robbie Alomar ordinarily catches that baby in his back pocket. And he'll pick up an error on that ball.
2 errors tonight for Alomar.
Take a look at it again. For Alomar, this is an easy play. And he usually can put that baby in his back pocket, but he'll pick up an E.
Well, those are the plays that the teams that are watching Alomar right now
are shocked.
I have to shake their head at.
Yeah.
And if you think, if you're going to try bringing a guy who's been one of the best at his position, and now that's what's happening to him right now, you have to ask yourself why.
I've heard from baseball people that are very knowledgeable that in the American League, he was by far, there wasn't anybody close to being as good as him.
Strike here to Blaylock, and a Met fan hears that and it's just got a cringe.
Oh, they do. They do. You see, Stanton and Weathers, double barrel action, but yeah, Met fans and baseball fans. I've heard from baseball people that are shocked at what has happened to Robbie Alomar in New York.
So instead of 2 outs and no one on, there's now Franco battling Blaylock with A-Rod on deck.
Yeah, with a migraine headache.
Is Nelson Silverio, who's the Mets bullpen catcher, and I'm not sure what the purpose. Look at this. Ball hit in the air to shallow right. So now the question for Art Howe, do you have Franco pitch to A-Rod? Or do you go get Weathers?
Well, they're going to get Weathers.
Yeah.
So A-Rod will be the batter. We have a 2-run ball game if you just tuned in. 9-7, the Rangers on top of the Mets. Rangers with 11 hits, the Mets with 10. It's been an offensive night. The story here on MSG Network was the focus we had on the young 19-year-old shortstop the Mets brought up. He's got 2 hits in his game. He's 2 for 4. But how about John Franco? Back to active duty over 1,000 times in his major league career. He has pitched.
Report after the Mets Spurs game 4. Highlights and analysis all tomorrow night on MSG. Mets baseball, and then the special Sports Desk Mets post-game report. So David Weathers gets the call here. Try to keep the Mets in the game. Get A-Rod. Mets will have the top of the order coming up in the 9th. Everett at first with 2 out. So the Rangers have 9 runs tonight, and A-Rod's 0 for 4. The one thing that has plagued David Weathers most of the year has been the first batter. He's had a real tough time getting the first man out. The Mets are hoping he only pitches to one man. 2-1. You can see that right there tells you everything about those struggles. Ball 3-1. Weathers didn't think it was a ball.
Ball was inside off the plate. And A-Rod was able to check his swing.
So now 3-1. And a base hit. Shot it past Alomar, so Weathers had to come in on 3-1. Everett will go to third. So now the question is, for the Mets, do you bring Stanton in to pitch to Palmeiro? The answer is going to be yes.
We were talking about how smooth Palmeiro is as Art Howe goes to the bullpen. Well, watch how smooth Rodriguez is. Takes the breaking ball for a strike, down low with a heater. Breaking ball misses. Fastball misses inside, and then bang. Out over the plate, and A-Rod didn't try to pull it. He's as smooth from the right side as Palmeiro is from the left side. So David Weathers comes on. I should say he'll lead the ball game. Mike Stanton comes on to replace David Weathers.
Texan Mike Stanton, born and raised in Houston, into pitch as we look at the Delta upcoming schedule here. Tomorrow night MSG, Thursday night WB 11, and then the weekend series for the Mets, 3 games in Anaheim.
Friday night, Fox Sports New York. You get the WB on Saturday and Sunday. So that's the Delta Airlines upcoming schedule.
So Houston native Mike Stanton, who pitched half a year here for the Texas Rangers before he went to the Yankees. Pitched 1996 stretch run for Texas. Franco started the inning and should have been out of the inning, but an error prolonged it. Weathers faced one man, and now Palmeiro. It's a crack with the Rangers leading by 2 runs. The Mets going through all of this just to stay within 2.
We go back and take a look at the 7th inning. Rafael Palmeiro with another home run. He's got over 500. And it was a big one in this ball game. A lot of runs scored. 9 for the Rangers, 7 for the Mets.
Two and 0. So Everett at third and Rodriguez at first. 2 outs. Palmeiro has faced Stanton a lot, 20 times. Years of battles. Stanton a Yankee. And that's regular season. Who knows how many times in the playoff series these teams played, the Yankees rather, and Texas played against each other. How many times they had battles. Well, when you're in that kind of category, every time you leap someone, it's a Hall of Famer. And Stanton just walked him on 4 pitches.
So he's brought in to pitch to Rafael Palmeiro. He loses him.
Well, now the Mets will have to deal with Teixeira.
Teixeira can hammer. He hit a solo home run, his 8th of the season tonight.
And this is his side. 17 for 49 as a right-hand batter. Just shy of 350.
We're back to the 5th inning. Teixeira's home run. Bang! Right over the 400-foot mark. They said it traveled 441 feet from home plate. He has featured a real good swing from the right side of the plate. Just misses this pitch here. Stanton took something off that pitch and got him way out in front.
Good little change up there. 1-1. Curve missing.
Doesn't want to give him the heater.
And he got him on a pop-up. If it's caught. And this one is inning over. So it was a little more tense than it needed to be for the Mets, but Texas leaves them loaded. The Mets get ready for their last shot. 2:30 whereabouts on MSG Sports Desk, presented by Toyota. More on Jose Reyes' debut tonight. Devils party. The Nets get ready for Game 4 tomorrow night at the Meadowlands. All coming up on Sports Desk. It'll be right after Angles tonight. So it won't be 11:30, but hang with us right here on MSG. Right after Angles will be Sports Desk. Now, in the 9th inning, Urbina facing Cedeno, Perez, and Alomar, the 3 left-hand batters. And Cedeno trying to drag bunt. Forcing a bare-hand play, and Young can't make it. So Cedeno is on, and is that a welcome sight for the Mets? Cedeno forcing a play with his speed and getting on base.
Well, he's been much more productive since May 1st, and right there he's able to beat this out, and he's setting the table. So Cedeno's on first base with nobody out here in the 9th.
Timo Perez the batter, so the Mets, who were seemingly out of this one, have the tying run at the plate. Timo 1 for 3 and a sacrifice. Urbina has given up 4 home runs this year in 24 innings. So a guy who, when he pitched for Montreal, was overpowering. 2 elbow surgeries in the 2000 year changed some of that. But in 1999, Urbina had 41 saves. The Expos only won 68 games that year.
He had stuff like Armando Benitez coming out of the bullpen, but the surgery will set you back. They're speaking of Armando. There he is.
Battle of Venezuela in that first batter, and Cedeno got on with a hit. Now Timo trying to keep it going for the Mets in a 2-strike hole. And with Cedeno running, this foul ball is going to be out of play.
Well, Roger Cedeno aggressively got to first base in the bunted ball, and he was put in motion. Pretty good jump off first base. And Timo Perez is swinging that bat. It's funny when a guy gets a jump, people say, well, why didn't the hitter take the pitch? Ricky Henderson told me that he told all the hitters behind him in his career, you get a pitch to hit it. Don't wait for me to steal the base. Even if I'm running, swing the bat. Big lead right there.
95 mile an hour. Fastball from Urbina, 1-2. Alomar will be behind Timo, and then Cliff Floyd hopes to get a shot. Cold foul. Timo's a little too quick on that.
Broke his bat. Cedeno faked towards second base, then held his ground. Here's that last pitch down and in, and Timo hit the ball off the end of the bat and broke it. So he goes back, he gets some new lumber.
Well, the Rangers aren't upset that they had to bring Urbina in. I mean, he hadn't pitched in a week. They got a 9-game losing streak. The closer can rust. But the Mets are thrilled to have this opportunity. That tying run at the plate in the 9th inning.
Even with the 9-game losing streak, I would try and get the closer in just to get him some work.
Yeah.
Why let him sit there?
Unless the closer doesn't want to. And there are guys that have been like that.
Then you got to go and get a different closer.
Foul back. Oh, nice catch. Young fan right there he is, the Texas shirt right beneath us.
A bullet, look at that.
Hey, nice job, crew.
Good hands right there.
One and two again to Timo. Roger bluffed. Timo strikes out.
I'll tell you what, if Roger ran, Diaz would have hit Timo right square in the face with this. Watch what happens here. Diaz thinks Roger's going to swing, natural swing, and look at that.
Yeah.
Timo said, I'm glad you didn't run, Roger. You're taught as a catcher, get rid of it. There's the fake. You come out of the chute ready to throw. Would have been something if he threw that ball and hit Timo in the head. Ball would have been in play because that's his natural swing, going across home plate.
So Alomar the batter with one out. Alomar tonight, 2 hits, a soft line drive for an out, and then a shot. He hit right-handed in the 7th inning, hit a line drive back to the pitcher for an out. First time he's ever faced Urbina.
Got Robbie way out in front with that off-speed pitch. When you face a guy with a reputation of being overpowering, even when he's not, if he takes something off the pitch, he's got a chance to fool you because in the back of your mind, you got this guy, he's overpowering, so you're ready to pull the trigger in a hurry. Sometimes reputation, you have to get by the reputation to feel more comfortable.
Now Cedeno takes second base, which is, I mean, that's a good play.
Yeah, you got to give him a stolen base in there. I mean, there's no indifference in a 2-run ball game. Cedeno with a good jump. This is good to see Cedeno aggressive on the base.
Exactly, Fran, because if you're in the Mets, you've got to, the game can't end without Cliff Floyd getting up.
Right.
He's your one home run guy.
And that ball, by the way, once it hits the dirt, very, very difficult for a catcher to get his rhythm to throw to second base.
And Alomar has hit the more double plays than any Met this year. Now that can't happen, and that's the big thing. Floyd gets a shot. The Mets on a 10-game road trip starting tonight. Nothing would get it going better than a dramatic 9th inning. They had a 2-out rally in the 8th to get him close. That's exactly why Cedeno stealing the base was so big.
Yeah, that was a tailor-made double play ball. So now Cedeno moves to third base, and Cliff Floyd is the batter. Mets need 2 to tie here in the top of the 9th. So Cliff Floyd represents the tying run.
Floyd and Urbina, they played together in Montreal. They played together the second half of last year in Boston. Floyd has had 4 at-bats against him with 1 hit. But again, if you're the Mets, is all you can ask for. You've got your 1 home run threat as the tying run batting in the 9th. Wilson with a 3-run homer in the 8th. Phillips had a home run earlier. Reyes with 2 hits tonight. But now it's up to Floyd to see if he can keep the Mets in it. I don't blame Floyd for being quizzical on this pitch.
Urbina running that fastball, boy, that's not a strike.
No, that was not. 1-1. And now the Mets down to their final strike.
That last pitch, good ball movement from Urbina. As Ted mentioned earlier, he had that real good overpowering fastball, but now he's gone to the pitch with a lot of ball movement, but not as overpowering.
Really kept that down.
Get a ground ball to hit that baby.
So those left out of a paid crowd of 20,000 and urge Urbina on to finish this, and the Rangers to break their 9-game losing streak. 1-2 to Floyd. And he gets him here on a fly ball to left. And it is Mensch to catch the final out. So the Rangers do win for the first time since late May. A 9-game losing streak comes to an end as they beat the Mets in game 1 of this series 9-7.
And a story within the ball game, besides Palmeiro's 504th home run, you see the last out of the game, Cliff Floyd, but the story within the game for Met fans, 19-year-old Reyes comes out of the minor leagues to play shortstop tonight. He's on the losing side of this ball game, but he went 2 for 4, played flawless defense.
We'll be back to wrap it up in Texas in a moment. He sure played like it tonight.
Boy, it really did. Look at that score. Look at the hits. 12 hits for the Rangers, 11 for the Mets. And how did they get to where they got? Well, Reyes, a single and a double and 2 runs scored. Vance Wilson, a 3-run home run, his 5th of the season. Texas had some home runs also, Ted.
Yep, 4 of them. The only one with a man on was Michael Young's 2-run shot in the 3rd inning, but those tack-on home runs, Teixeira and Palmeiro, were the ones that loomed large. Mets had homers from Jason Phillips and Vance Wilson. We're back to Texas in a moment.
You should know that we are being joined via conference call by Jim Duquette and Art Howe, who are in Texas with the New York Mets beat writers. We're also with them, and we'll be patched in by conference call. As a result, when we get to the point where we're going to take questions, we'd like to start with the beat writers in Texas, because we think, although we think we have good technology, we're concerned that they may not be able to hear questions from the general audience. So we would like to start with them and ask your indulgence in that regard, and then we will certainly open it up and give you ample opportunity to ask questions from the audience. Once we complete that general question and answer session, Fred will then be available for the TVs in this corner of the room. We'd like to do a group session with the TVs at that time. We would ask the writers who are here to assemble towards the back opposite corner of the room to be prepared. Once Fred finishes up with the TVs, he will then meet in a group session with the writers. And at this point, I turn it over to our chairman and CEO, Fred Wilpon.
Hard to see. Good afternoon. I informed Steve Phillips this morning that I had decided to replace him as general manager of the New York Mets. Effective immediately, Jim Duquette will be the interim general manager. We will begin to identify potential candidates and will conduct a full and thorough search for a permanent replacement in accordance with the policy of the Commissioner of Baseball. We will be looking for the best possible candidate who might be available. Jim Duquette will be given serious consideration for the permanent position. I would like to thank Steve Phillips for his many contributions to this organization. Steve played for us as a minor leaguer for 6.5 years and worked as an executive in the minor league department initially and later with the Major League Club for more than 13 years. I point out to all of us that in the year 2000, we were in the World Series, and Steve was one fellow who helped us get there. To date, this has been a very disappointing season. Our expectations over the last 3 years have not been realized. The team has not produced the results that we wanted for ourselves or for our fans. We hope that the remaining 3.5 months of the season will bring a new energy, competitiveness, and greater success on the field. We will attempt to energize this team this year and in the future years by getting younger and more athletic. We will strive to create a healthy mix of young and veteran players. Our minor league system will be essential to our ability to be successful now and in the future. I'll take any and all of your questions.
Fred, I'm in Dallas here. The writers are prepared to ask questions now.
Fred, how come
Fred, Kevin Sawinski.
Fred, how come you stuck with Steve after you let Bobby go last year? What was the thinking behind keeping him around the extra time?
It was my hope that we would be able to turn it around, Kevin. And since changing a general manager or any employee of ours, but certainly one like a general manager who is so significant, is a serious issue and one that I contemplated long and hard. I believe this is the right time to do it, and that's why we're doing it. We did not believe that it was the right time when Bobby was relieved of his duties. So we had hope that this veteran team would produce the kind of results we wanted for ourselves and our fans, and that didn't happen. And as I said, to start with, this season has been very disappointing so far. I have some feelings about this team and maybe some of the players that will be here in the near future that are going to excite the people and have some winning that we haven't done so far.
Fred, Dave Lennon's next question.
Fred, things have been going bad for so long this year. Why did you pick this morning to make this move?
Was it Dave?
Dave Lennon, Fred.
Yeah, hi. Dave, I thought this was the appropriate time after a very difficult decision for a long period of time. I thought it was appropriate for the organization. We have a lot of things that are going to occur from now to the trading deadline and to the end of the season in trying to turn this around. And I thought that Jim ought to have the ability to try to do that as the interim GM.
Dave Wallstein, next question, Fred.
Fred, is the interim label through the rest of this year?
Yes.
Pete Calderi, next question, Fred.
Fred, as much as you and Jeff took a proactive role with this club this offseason, how much of the blame does ownership share in the failures of this club to this point?
Well, you know, you have to do these decisions are made as an organization. Jeff just started getting involved in August, and I asked him as one of his first assignments to concentrate on the minor leagues, because it seemed to me that that's an area that we need very vitally in our future. And I think that we didn't have the kind of production from our minor leagues. We've reviewed all of that. We've made a number of changes. We hope for the positive. We went to the Dominican Republic just for that purpose. And as you probably know now, we've signed an agreement with a major academy there. I think 40 of our kids slept in their rooms this week. So that's a big plus. And there are many other things that we're doing, and that was a concentration that Jeff was supposed to do and has done, and it's ongoing.
Raphael Hermosa, Fred.
Fred, I'm assuming that Jim would be considered for the job at the end of the season. First of all, is he auditioning for the job in the moves that he's going to have to make and the decisions he's going to have to make in the next couple of months? And what exactly is his task at hand?
I didn't hear the last part.
What exactly will he need to do? What is he in charge of at this point?
Well, I wouldn't call it an addition because, you know, we've known Jim for a long time, so he will be one of the prime prospects. But we have to, by baseball rules, do a full and complete search, and we will do so. I suspect that after this announcement is made, there will be people who will think, well, maybe I have a chance to be the general manager of the New York Mets. People that we haven't heard from, people whose contracts may be up, who can't say anything now because of the tampering rules, but will say something at the end of the year. So we are hopeful that we will be able to do a full and thorough research and come up with a great general manager to lead us into the future. And Jim might be that person. We don't know that yet.
The next question is from Mike Morrissey.
Fred, in retrospect, was Steve given too much latitude the last two off seasons, particularly the off season after 2001, and also, I mean, do you view the Mo Vaughn move especially as kind of the millstone or the albatross that really cost Steve his job?
Well, once again, Mike, you know, these decisions are made by a whole organization, but Steve is the guy who had the last word and the responsibility. So he had the authority and the responsibility. Did he have too much latitude? No, I don't think so, because ultimately, when a deal is to be made, the baseball department, in all aspects of the baseball department, collectively decide who they want. And then they come to ownership and say, here's our recommendation, and here are the reasons we want to do that. And most often ownership, you know, goes along, assuming it fits all of the other parameters. And that's what happened here. It's not that they made decisions in a vacuum. They made these decisions as a group. And Bobby was around at that time, and others were around. I think one of the things that's happened to our organization that has to be changed, or shall I say go back to, when Steve was first hired, we recognized that he needed people around him who were pure baseball people. And we hired those people. We had Omar, we had Dave Wallace, we had Carmen Fusco. That sort of broke down in the last couple of years, and I think that is not a good thing, and I know that Jim wants to change that, and will recommend people that he thinks could be the guys around him. The second thing that I think we did that we will not try to repeat is there are no quick fixes in this game. And we must bring people from our minor leagues. We must scout them better. We must develop them better. And we must have a pipeline to the major league club. That's urgent for this club and perhaps for any club. So we're going to stress that. We're going to work on that. And Gary LaRocque has done an excellent job in the few years that he's been here, where we had an empty system to a system that has a lot of good players in it. Maybe not as many as we want 4 years from now, but there are a lot of good players, some of whom you'll be seeing at Shea Stadium in the near future.
Great. Ed Coleman has the next question.
Fred, you started to answer it, I think, in your last answer, but you've done a lot of evaluation of the process of how you do things in the front office. Will there be changes in the way that the new general manager operates as to who he has to report to, or will he be able to operate more autonomously if he feels that's the best way to go?
I think that the new general manager and many people will not understand that Steve operated this way as well. In Steve's case, the proof of the pudding was that we didn't succeed. But Steve operated collectively, and I think Jim will operate collectively with his group of people, and he will depend upon their advice and their counsel, but he has to make that last decision. And it's his decision whether he wants player A or player B. And that's the telling difference.
Fred, Pete Abraham has the next question.
Fred, you spoke before about your baseball department and your disappointment in some of the scouting and development. Is Steve the only person being let go, and do you envision other changes being made in the baseball operation?
That's an ongoing process. We haven't completed it yet. We've completed parts of it, and there's nothing imminent that I see happening in the next week or two, but our evaluations will take place in early July with Gary heading those evaluations and Jim, and from that will come recommendations from those people as to what they want to do. We did do those evaluations 2 years ago and a year ago, and there's been a lot of upgrading in our scouting and development over the last 2 years.
Okay, Dave Wallstein has a question.
But how did you tell Steve, and what was his reaction?
I spoke to Steve this morning, and Steve was, I won't say he was surprised, because I think you guys have reminded of this being a possibility for some time. So he wasn't completely surprised, but he was totally first class. He said it was an honor to work for this organization, and it was an honor to be the general manager. We were totally cooperative, and whether or not there's a place for Steve as a consultant or in some other way in this organization, I don't know. I've asked him to think about that. In some way, obviously, that would allow Jim to move on and do the job he has to do. He understood that, and he's going to do that, and we'll probably have lunch in a couple of days and carry it from there.
Okay, Adam Rubin has a question.
Hi, Fred. How immediate a thing does Jim Duquette have to do in unloading veteran players in the last year of their contract and bring in more prospects? Is that something that's going to happen quickly?
What was the first part of that question? I didn't hear that.
Is Jim going to be charged with immediately trying to get rid of or trade some of the high-priced players and bring in some young players right away, or are you going to keep this team intact for a while?
Jim will be in charge, as he is at this moment, as the interim general manager with all its responsibilities and authority. Among those will be a plan that he has in terms of whether we think we may have some players that are on our team today. Can you shut that off? Whether we have some players that are on our team today that we might consider trading, or players that we think would do our team better. Thank you. Would do our team better in the future. That's his responsibility and authority, and he's got to identify that. And he's talking to clubs. Steve had talked to some clubs, and he's turning that over to Jim as we speak.
Fred, Mike Morrissey has a question.
Fred, do you think that the Mets fans will be patient as you build from? It sounds like you want to build a championship team from the ground up. Do you think that Mets fans will be patient? And what do you think Do you think the transition period will be more than just this season, or maybe another season, 2004, for instance?
Mike, we're not looking for a total rebuild. We have some great players on this team who are going to continue with this team. Star players. The players who people would label as superstars. And we think once this injuries get by us, and I've been around for 23 years now, I've never seen more injuries than what we've had this year for whatever the reasons. And many other clubs are suffering the same way. But in any event, we're not making from start. We're going to blend veteran, excellent, proven players with some younger, more athletic in some cases, more speed, probably some defense, maybe some more pitching. Those players will come on board. Some of them will be players from our system. Some of them will be non-tenders. Some of them will be free agents. There will be a blend of that.
Dave Wallstead had another question.
Fred, has the rebuilding period officially begun in terms of looking at the rest of the season?
Well, I think that I think what's begun, Dave, is that we've got to salvage the last 3.5 months, and we've got to win some games. We've got to play like we played last night, and if we could do that, and have another so-called J-So around, that would do our organization well, because we think we have 3 very outstanding starting pitchers. It's unfortunate that Pedro went down because we thought we had 4, but that's life. So we have to go on from there.
But Fred, the question really is, I mean, from now on, are all decisions based towards the future beyond salvaging this year?
No, the future is tomorrow. The future is the next 3.5 months, as well as keeping in mind the so-called future of 04, 05, and 6, and 7. So we're looking to get better now. And how we do that, we'll have to see how creative and how well we can do that.
Kevin Sawinski has a question.
Fred, considering how many of the subsequent